Hey folks, it's Cody Stoffer with Playmakers Corner, here to tell you about Code Red coaching. Competing in athletics means you've lifted the weights, you've watched film, and you've got the passion. Problem is, that's what everyone else in the state has done. Perfect your game by honing in on your mental performance with Code Red coaching. Whether you are a team or an individual, Code Red coaching has the tools to create mentally solid habits and set up you or your team for success. Find Code Red Coaching at coderedcoaching.com or call 720-979-1914 to learn more today. That's coderedcoaching.com or 720-979-1914 today. Now back to the show.
Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to the Playmakers Corner podcast. I'm Gideon, and today we are going to be going over, at least right now, the 1A recap for Week 9 of the Colorado High School 2023 football season. And so, real quick here, I'm just going to say that it is Sunday, October 22nd at about 11 a.m. when I'm recording this. And so, if stats get put in after this point, don't come at me, because as soon as I'm done, I upload this to our shared drive and then go about my day because I have stuff to do. I'm mostly kidding, but seriously, if stats get uploaded after this point, it is what it is. I'm going with the information that is available to me. If you have something big that you want to share with us, send us a DM and let us know what that thing is, because that is actually how a couple of Playmaker of the Week nominations have been found, is, somebody sends us their stats before they're posted on MaxPreps. But, side tangent, I digress, ultimately. And we're going to go through all of the 1A games from this week. And we have some good ones, we have some not good ones. But all around, we're going to start here with Thursday's matchups. We had two games on Thursday, October the 19th. The first of which being between Peyton and Rocky Ford. The Peyton Panthers would come out on top of the Melineers in this one, 45-7. And looking at it, I'm going to go with Rocky Ford's stats here first. Isaiah Gallegos, 10 for 22 passing for 85 yards, threw a pick as well there. Gallegos, though, he also had 45 rushing yards. Nobody else was over 5. Receiving, though, we see a freshman, Gavin Thompson, 2 catches for 28 yards, Aiden Cisneros for 17 yards, Tevin Anderson for 12, and Shane Gonzalez for 12. Then we see defensively, Ramirez Acuna, 9 tackles, 1 for loss. Kason Van Dyke, 7 with 1 for loss. Cisneros with 5. Cisneros with 6 and Gavin Thompson with 5, and Gallegos with 3. Gavin Thompson, the freshman, he had a sack. Gallegos, he had a pass deflection, and Thompson had a forced fumble. That's all for the Rocky Ford Melineers, statistically. Looking at Peyton, though, Noah Martin, 17 for 20 passing, 282 yards, 5 touchdowns, and then 79 yards rushing and a touchdown on the ground as well. We also see Landon Hadley had 34 yards, and Josiah Zimmerman, 14 yards on 4 carries, and a touchdown on one of those. Receiving, we see Hadley had 112 receiving yards and a score. Brian Kearns, 7 catches for 95 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Carson Murray, 52 yards on 3 catches and a score. We also see, in terms of tackles, Hunter Trim, 9 tackles and 3 for loss. Josiah Zimmerman with 9 and 1 for loss. Lucas Boyvert, 8 with 4. Chase Evans, 7 with 3. Finlay Wagner, 5 tackles. Liam McInroy with 5 as well. Zach Halliday and Josh Geiger with 4. And then 3 guys here with 3. Colton Hanks, Brady Nonica, and Daniel Ornalis. We also see that Brian Kearns, he had a pick for about 30 yards. A lot of pass deflections here. Zimmerman with 4, Landon Hadley with 3, Aiden Neckel with 2, and Carson Murray with 1. We also see that forced fumble from Lucas Boyvert and a recovery from Daniel Ornalis. We also see that, unfortunately, the kicking didn't go too well here for the Panthers. Nathan Burdick, 1 for 4 on PATs, and a conversion rush from Daniel Ornalis here. One quick note about Rocky Ford. This next cycle, it's looking like they're going to go down to either 8-man or 6-man, which is probably for the best for that team. I feel like watching some of their film, you look at the sidelines, and they have maybe 5 guys on the sideline that aren't playing on the field. And so that is a team that would really thrive best in 8-man, because then at any given point in time, that gives them 6 more guys on the sideline. Because right now, if somebody gets hurt, I mean, it's a blessing that nobody's gotten hurt for them so far this season, because this is insane. Next up, though, we have Clear Creek versus Denver Christian. The Thunder of Denver Christian defeated the Clear Creek Gold Diggers 44-20. Clear Creek wasn't going to win their league anyway. They got their butts handed to them by Strasburg. But honestly, though, a 3-win season is better than a 0-win season, which they had last year. So I feel good for the Gold Diggers moving forward. There are no stats for this yet, but Denver Christian, also a team to watch as they progress through these next couple of years. I think this is only their 2nd year as a program, so pretty solid so far. Moving on to Friday's game, I'm going to pick this up with the Pinnacle falling to Manual on a forfeit. Not great, but honestly, that's kind of what we've come to expect from the Pinnacle, unfortunately. Kind of sad to see that their season is over, but it is what it is. Then we have the Platte Canyon Huskies taking down the Middle Park Panthers 44-6. Looking at this, Platte Canyon had 63 plays, 22 first downs, 9 penalties for 70 yards. Middle Park had 46 plays for 6 first downs, 5 penalties, and 31 penalty yards. The only player statistic that has been entered for Platte Canyon is that Tate Heineman forced a fumble, which I find it really funny that that's the only thing. This is like the 10th time Platte Canyon has done this. It's interesting, but it is what it is. Really solid game. Platte Canyon, I'll go over it in their playoff picture here soon. Another team that's looking to make the playoffs is Monta Vista. The Pirates defeating the Center Vikings 58-6. Passing, we see Caden Madrid 2 for 2 for 66 yards and a touchdown. And then we also see that on the ground, Jacob Pacheco, 57 yards and a score. Kevin Cisneros, 54 yards and a score. Ishmael Medina, 35 yards and a touchdown. Madrid with 26 yards. And Alex Marquez with 1 carry for 10 yards, and that was a touchdown. In terms of receiving, Azariah Hurtado, the sophomore, 1 catch for 43 yards and a touchdown. And Carlos Sigala, 1 catch for 23 yards. Next up, though, we do also see that in terms of defense, Chase Boyette, 9 tackles, 2 guys here with 6, Baumgartner and Enderle, Jack Noonan and Caden Malott with 5 tackles, Hurtado, Villagomez, and Eli Baumgartner, each with 4, Ishmael Medina, Cisneros, and Marquez, each with 3. Villagomez, he had a sack and a hurry in this one. Marquez, he had a pick for 24 yards, and Sigala had a pick for 15 yards. Hurtado, Medina, and Judah Howe each had a pass deflection. Boyette had a forced fumble, as did Cisneros, who also recovered a fumble for 51 yards. And then we also see John Jake Naranjo, 8 kickoffs for 350 yards and a touchback, along with Jack Noonan upping his punting yard average, 1 punt for 48 yards. Really, really solid job there. Marquez also 2 punt returns for 92 yards, a long of 84 on that. And then, just really, really solid job there. Baumgartner forced a safety, it looks like. Pacheco had 4 conversions. Enderle had 2 conversions, and Boyette also had a conversion there. So yeah, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different players scoring in 4 different ways in this game. Rocky Ford, not Rocky Ford, center. Mont Vista absolutely blasted center here. But moving on to North Fork versus Gunnison. The Gunnison Cowboys coming on top of the North Fork Miners, 35-21. No stats on this one yet, but it can be assumed that this was a bit of a slugfest. North Fork is always a team that I'm looking out for, but Gunnison has proven to be one of the better teams in the state this year, so I'm not too particularly surprised. They'll probably be a Final Four squad, if not better. Next up, though, we have another forfeit. Sheridan falling in a forfeit to Estes Park. And keep in mind, both Sheridan and the Pinnacle are in the same league, so that is not a great sign for the Longs Peak League moving forward. It's probably going to get reshuffled here. That is just kind of sad, if I'm being honest with you. Next up, we have Wiggins falling to Lyman, 21-42 here. There isn't a stat sheet on Max Preps that has been recorded yet, but we have heard from an independent source that Logan Bottier from Lyman had about 260 yards and 5 touchdowns in this one, which is absolutely insane for the senior over at the Lyman Badgers field. So Bottier, with that type of performance against a playoff team, has to be considered for Playmaker of the Week. Yeah, and actually looking at the film for this one, it looks like he almost had 6 touchdowns. So, yeah, Bottier absolutely tore it up here against Wiggins, and the Badgers come on top there, 42-21. Another big matchup that I was highly anticipating was Banning Lewis against Rye. Banning Lewis coming on top in this one, 40-6. Now, Rye hasn't input stats yet, but Banning Lewis has. And first off, I see that Sam Bell, 6 for 7 passing for 93 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Rushing, we find that Chase Reel, 229 yards on 14 carries. That's an average of 16.5 yards a carry. Then we see Joseph Biekovic, 81 yards. Sam Bell, 31 yards. Cam Leggett, 27 yards, and Riley Dotson with 20. Receiving-wise, Jordan Jones, 49 yards on 2 catches. Ben Early, 43 yards. And that is all of the stats that we have for the Banning Lewis Prep Stallions in this game. Really, really solid game. I'll have to look at Chase Reel as well for a Playmaker of the Week nomination. Next up, we have Ellicott falling to Colorado Springs Christian, 48-12. The Thunderhawks have input their stats. The Lions have not. So let's look at it for Ellicott here. And oh my god. Okay, so Ellicott's quarterback, Jedrick Howarth, 7 for 25 for 142 yards. No touchdowns. 5 interceptions. Okay. I'm honestly not sure how to react to that. But Howarth did have some positive productivity in this game. 23 carries for 131 yards and a touchdown. And then Jalen Bonilla also had 76 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Bonilla, he had 87 receiving yards, and Conaher Briggs had 34. Ooh, goodness. Xavier Hoyle had 8 tackles. Briggs and Howarth each had 7. Tavita Tanoa and Tavon Fiewillen each had 5, and then Bonilla and Jonathan Sfeen had 3. Tanoa had a hurry, and then Howarth had an interception as well. I like, the thing is, if he hadn't thrown 5 interceptions, Jedrick Howarth would be a Playmaker of the Week candidate. He wouldn't win because they lost, but that would be a candidate. But like, you threw 5 interceptions. Like it makes me think back to the Joshua Garduno days. Like, those were actually kind of solid in comparison to throwing 5 picks. I mean, I know it's Colorado Springs Christian, but still, like, that is. I. Let's move on. The next game in the rotation is Centauri. The Centauri Falcons defeating the Ignacio Bobcats 38-6. No box score stats here on this one yet, but all around, this is kind of what I expected. This matchup, though, between Centauri and Mont Vista, it's going to be huge. Even if I think it's going to be a competitive matchup, but I certainly don't think it's decided one way or the other. Next up, we have Strasburg defeating Jefferson 65-0. Watch Jefferson try to say they got 10 sacks in this game, but Strasburg continuing to prove why they're one of the better teams in the classification. Another game next week to keep an eye on, though, is Platte Canyon versus Strasburg, which that one is going to decide that league, but also Platte Canyon is undefeated heading into that matchup. Strasburg should probably still win that, but Platte Canyon does have a chance to pull off a huge upset here. Next up, we see a really big surprise. Meeker fell to the Teton Timberwolves 41-6. And if you're listening, you're like, who the hell is Teton? Okay, so the thing is, somehow Meeker got on their schedule the third best team in the 3A classification in Idaho. Like I looked it up, Teton is a top 3A team in Idaho. That is like if they had scheduled Northfield, but from Idaho. I don't even know. Like, where did you play? Where did you meet to play this game? Like it says it's a neutral game. Good. But like, did you guys meet in Utah or something? Like, did you book out a venue? Okay, there aren't any stats for this one yet. I am just taken off guard because what the hell is this? Like, why are you playing a team from Idaho? It is what it is, but Meeker lost 41-6. Another team that lost by a pretty similar margin was Yuma. The Holyoke Dragons would down the Yuma 42-0. No stats on this one yet, but we do have the frame-by-frame score. Holyoke was up 6-0 after the first quarter, and Yuma probably had some hope, but then Holyoke went on a 22-point run in the second quarter and 14 in the third. Didn't have to score in the fourth because by then the deal was done. Yuma, they have to play Lyman next week. They're probably going to get bounced by the winner of the 1A Longs Peak League. But we'll take a look at what the playoffs look like here in a moment. Next up, though, we have Ray defeating Burlington 53-6. The Eagles just continuing their dominance. Passing-wise, we see Casey Midcap, 5 for 11 for 100 yards. Samuel Meisner, 109 yards for 5 touchdowns, which is insane. Austin Collins, 51 yards. Casey Midcap, 45 yards. And Felipe Carranza with 29 yards and a score. We also see Collins with 62 receiving yards and a touchdown. And Aaron Tanya with 38 yards. On defense, we see Taveri Chappell, 7 tackles, 1.5 for loss. Austin Snap and Bryson Lewis and Eric Lords, each with 5. Meisner with 4. Eric Tracy with 4. Midcap, Riggleman, and Diego de Leon with 3. Then we see that Chappell, he had a sack for about 3 yards. Collins, 2 interceptions for 18 yards. 2 pass deflections here from Wyatt Fonte and Jose Gonzalez. 2 forced fumbles, one by De Leon and one by Midcap. A fumble recovery by Midcap as well, and by Bryson Lewis. And a blocked punt by Reese Weatherly. We also see De Leon. He had 9 kickoffs for 407 yards, a punt for 37 yards. And then we find that Wyatt Fonte, 1 kickoff return for 22 yards. Lewis, 2 punt returns for 25 yards. And Collins, 1 punt return for 17 yards. So, and then De Leon, he was also 5 for 7 on PATs. So, in total here, we have 8 touchdowns for the Ray Eagles. 1 on a fumble recovery, 5 on rushing, 1 on receiving, and yeah, just insane stuff here from Ray. Honestly, the sleeper performance, in my opinion, is Austin Collins. Good on the ground, good in the air. 2 interceptions there, I think, really seals it. And, I mean, we only have 2 more games left to go over. Technically 1 game, because as of recording this, a day after this game ended, there is no score for the Del Norte versus Trinidad matchup. But honestly, does that really affect anything? Probably not. Would I prefer if they had a score? Of course I would, but it's Del Norte and Trinidad. A score that does have more implications, though, is Flatirons Academy falling to Highland. Get this, 56-0. Flatirons Academy, they were technically second in that Longs Peak League after Manual was forced to forfeit here a week ago. But yeah, this upcoming week with Highland versus Manual, I'm going to be at that game. Highland is... Whoever wins that game between Highland and Manual is making the playoffs. And it's going to be insane thinking about one of these teams is going to have to miss out. Flatirons is out. They have lost that tiebreaker to Highland. And the point differential is negative for the Bison. So, I mean, honestly, and the thing is, Highland, they've almost caught up with the points allowed in the regular season because they played a bunch of contenders. But that's getting beside the point. All around, really, really solid job here by Highland to keep their season alive. And so Highland is 1 step closer to securing a playoff spot. And so let's look at this here. So what we have, 1 through 10, we have Lyman sitting at number 1 overall. No contest. Holyoke at number 2. Makes sense. Gunnison at 3. Meeker at 4. Buena Vista at 5. Banning Lewis closer to where they belong at 6. Wiggins at 7. Strasburg at 8. Ray at 9. So here's where things start to become more flexible in this last week of the season. So at 10, we have North Fork. And, I mean, the Miners, they have a decent chance to stay where they're at, really, because they don't have a game this week. They're basically secure here at 10. They have a week going into the playoffs where they can just watch what's happening around them. If the season were to end right now, they'd be playing Wiggins round 1, which I think is a very competitive matchup. Yeah, I think that'll be very, very close. That I can't really predict right now one way or the other, but that would be a fun one to watch, that's for sure. Next up, we have Centauri, who this week is going to be playing Monte Vista. And I think that this could go one of 2 ways, obviously. Monte Vista is a very solid team. They've got a lot of good young pieces. Centauri should not underestimate them. The Falcons, I feel like, may... And this counts as Monte Vista's little mini preview as well. I mean, both teams have a lot of really, really good players. It just... Centauri's been here before. And in that 21 championship, the guys left from that team are seniors now. And so it really comes down to what's Mont Vista, what are they going to be doing here? Are they going to pull off that upset? Because right now they're sitting at 16. They cannot afford a big loss right now. If they lose, it has to be slim. Centauri, not that they want a loss, but they can kind of afford it. Sitting at 11, even if you lose to the 16 seed, the furthest you're going to fall is maybe 13. So I think that Centauri is going to win, but it'll be Mont Vista is going to play them close. Next up, though, we have Colorado Springs Christian, a team which has probably secured their playoff spot, because the thing is that next they're playing Peyton. As I expected, they beat Ellicott pretty bad. And Peyton is the last real chance. If they lose to Peyton, they're out of the playoffs, because Peyton is all the way down at 23, 11 spots below them. But if CSCS is able to pull off the win here, then they'll probably be a lock. They probably not Magic like last year, but they would be playing Buena Vista first round again, I believe, if the playoffs started right now. So honestly, I feel solid about this team. They'll probably go in and blast Peyton, if I'm being completely honest. Next up, though, we have Platte Canyon. The last game of the season here is going to be against Strasburg. I alluded to it earlier. This is going to be tough because Platte Canyon is coming in undefeated. They are looking to win this league. Strasburg has gone undefeated in this league schedule, though. And, I mean, it is really, really tough because Strasburg does have the points advantage against most of these squads. But it is really, really damn tough to think about. Because if Platte Canyon loses big here, they're not guaranteed a spot. Strasburg is dominating this league right now. And so if Platte Canyon loses, they may be out, depending on how bad it is. Now, I say may because I don't think it'll be that, but it'll be tough. It'll be tough. Another team that'll be really tough for is Yuma. Yuma is an interesting case because they're 3-5 right now. They are a proponent of the Burlington effect, as are the 15 seed Cedar Edge. Yuma is the 14 right now, by the way. And so I'm just going to run through both of these right now. The Yuma, they're going to be playing Lyman next week. They lost to Holyoke 42-0. They lost to Ray 35-6. Their only league win was against Burlington, and they beat Sterling and Burns in Wyoming. So, I do not trust this Yuma team at all against Lyman. And honestly, with that loss, they fell from 12 to 14 after Holyoke. I think they're going to fall more. I think they're going to fall out, and that leaves some room for some other teams. Another team that I think is going to fall out is Cedar Edge. In my opinion, if you do not play a full game, a full season, you do not deserve to make the playoffs. They only have 7 games on this goddamn schedule. 7. Buena Vista has already played more than that. Buena Vista is the team they're matching up with this week, and the Demons are going to destroy these Bruins here. I mean, what the hell do they think is going to happen? We are playing the team that beat North Fork, who we lost to. They beat Meeker, I believe, who we lost to by 30. Gunnison we lost to by 24. But, no, you're not beating Buena Vista. If you do, I'll eat my words, whatever. But Cedar Edge, they're losing to Buena Vista. They'll have only played 7 games this season. That does not count. That is not a full goddamn year. You do not deserve to be in the playoffs even if you're in that spot. Because You have teams behind you who have played full seasons and who are above 500 and who have actually done something. So maybe schedule 9 games next year and we'll respect you a little bit more. How about that? God. Next up, though, we have Mont Vista. Already talked about them. Highland and Manual, discussed that briefly, but their Manual is tied for second in that league. Would be straight second without that forfeit. All around, I feel whoever wins that game wins the league. Rye up. Yeah. I mean, that's all there is to say. I'll be there. Alt's a really nice place. It's homecoming and senior night as well, which is always a fun game to be at. Finally, though, we do have the Rye Thunderbolts, who are in a precarious position where at this point, the only game left on their schedule is Rocky Ford. If you lose to Rocky goddamn Ford, I don't know what to tell you. You're not going to lose to Rocky Ford, though, because they are the third worst team in this classification. Only the third worst, because the two teams behind them have forfeit the past 3 games. They are one of 5 winless teams in this conference. 4 of those should drop down to 8-man. But back to Rye. Rye is going to win this game. They are going to. They have to rely on Yuma falling out and Cedar Ridge falling out. And even then, let's say Mont Vista slides up to 14, Highland slides up to 15 or 16, Rye's going to be in a tough spot. Because they're either going to be, if they make it, they'll either be 15 or 16. That loss against Salida is really biting them in the ass right now. Because without that, they'd be top 15. But, honestly, I hate to say this because Dylan Hearn is one of the best players in the classification in terms of pure impact, but I do not think they're going to make it. And so many chips would have to fall their way. It can happen, but it certainly isn't likely. But, I mean, this is Colorado high school football. I have seen 20-point fourth quarter comebacks. I've seen a lot of weird crap in my day. Anything is possible. But I guess that's the thesis of the year, is that nobody is safe. Anyone can win at any time. And that'll do it from me in this segment. Catch me later. We'll be talking about Severance and Roosevelt's matchup. And ultimately, if you're just listening for 1A stuff, stay hydrated, make sure you eat a lot of food today, get some good sleep tonight, and I will see you all out watching Colorado High School athletics next week. This is Gideon signing off for right now. Peace.
All right, y'all. Let's go ahead and get into some 2A action. This was a heavyweight matchup here between 2 top 10 ranked teams in the Classical Academy that traveled from the Springs up north to Kent, Denver, right in my own backyard here to face off against the Sun Devils here. I believe even at the time it may have been a top 5 matchup between these two teams in the same league nonetheless. And so, TCA, they travel all the way up here and they are looking to defend their high ranking and praise from the Colorado media. Kent Denver quietly undefeated, now putting people on notice with wins over Elizabeth here and some other league opponents here. So this is basically a league championship, more or less, for Kent. If they win league. TCA, they would have to beat them and probably Elizabeth to avoid a 3-way tie for the league chip. So TCA traveling up north and starting with the ball here. They're going to have some quick runs here that get them to the 28-yard line and set up a 3rd and 2, but a false start will put them in a bad spot, and the next play will not quite be hauled in here and set up 4th and 6 that they will punt here. But, there's a penalty on TCA, and Kent will accept it and force TCA to punt a second time. And this helps the Sun Devils start in plus territory here on the 47-yard line going in for their first drive of the day. Now, they start off with a run, but that is going to be swallowed up by TCA. And then another run left looks pretty all right, but a flag will undo the first down run. And after a holding penalty, it is 2nd and 18. The Devils do get the Titans to jump off sides with a hard count and set up 2nd and 13, but that doesn't really matter because a handoff is swallowed up by number 2, Gabriel Wright here for TCA. Now, the player here who helps finish that play is Dalton Robertson for the Titans. Now, on 3rd down, quarterback steps up the scramble here, but is popped, and the ball is popped loose here, but it is recovered by Kent, and they will punt. And they get a great punt here with TCA starting on their own 5-yard line. They pass right, and that is almost intercepted after being tipped up in the air. Then they call a QB keeper left that picks up out one. And on 3rd and 9, they call a short run right towards a cornerback blitz called by Kent Denver, and that will force them to punt. Now, Kent, to start with the football, do get a short run right that picks up about 3 yards before a swing pass left does pick up a first down all the way to the 30-yard line going in. They're driving. They call a roll right pass to a wheel that is well defended here by number 10 of the Titans with great pass coverage. That's Alex Gould here. And on 3rd and 7, 33 and 77 for TCA, stomp this run out. That's Michael Wu as well as Andrew Borchert here. And actually, wait, that was a run up the middle for a loss that forced 3rd and 12. So that was on 2nd down. And on 3rd down, Yanni here steps up in the pocket and delivers an eventually drop pass. On 4th and 12, they are in 4-down territory, so they are going to go for it anyway. And a pass over the middle to Alex Padalino is caught for a major first down all the way to the 16-yard line. There is a run right that is stretched all the way to the sideline and eventually controlled by number 13, Jaron Texer here of TCA. But while he's holding him up, other Titans join in and punch the ball out, and it's going to be recovered by number 40, Zach Hale of TCA here with a major fumble recovery to keep this game alive and to survive that trip to the red zone. Or, my apologies, number 34, Campbell Gaw, credited with the fumble recovery here. Now, TCA, they come out with a keeper and then a play right for 3rd and 5. And they call a keeper, and it's 4th down, and they're going to just punt and squander this opportunity, but survive that plus territory attempt by Kent. Now, Kent, on 1st down, they call a flood right, where they get a big pass to number 3, Nick, I want to say it's Bucano here, or Buccanow. Anyways, that is a first down inside of Titan territory. They then throw a quick throw left, but that is taken down for a big loss here on this screenplay that TCA sees. And then a play action that dumps left to Bucano gets pushed out at the 34-yard line, just 1 yard shy of a first. They call a handoff left that does pick up a first down inside of the 30-yard line. Now the Titans bring a blitz and force a quick throw that only gains 3 yards. And on the following play, it is a quick run left that is then brought down by numbers 40, 50, and 76 of TCA for a loss. That is Zach Hale. That is Dalton Robertson. Or no, not Dalton Robertson. That is Andrew Richens here, and Luke Megahan here. Now, on 3rd and 10, they try to get TCA to jump, but they just end up not doing that and get the quarter to end. Now, to start the second quarter, it is 3rd and 10 from the 28-yard line going in, and they throw right 5 for 7 yards. And on 4th and 3, they call a jet sweep left that is swallowed up and forced to be a turnover on downs. Now, TCA, they hand off to number 16 up the middle for a gain of about 8 yards here. That is Schipfer, the sophomore, on the handoff. And then they call a hurry-up play and call a run for a first down. After Bucano gets a sack, it is 21 setting up left who gets positive yardage and sets up 3rd and 3. They hand off to 16 for another first down, and on the following play, the quarterback keeps right and is hit by number 67 of Kent Denver here that I don't believe was credited with the forced fumble. I think it might have been number 22, Cooper Billings here. But the ball is popped out and put into the arms of Luke Harrington, who runs 57 yards to the house and puts Kent Denver up 7-0 with 8 minutes and 49 seconds left in the half. TCA, after finally getting some momentum and driving here, just get sucker punched and lose their wind. But fortunately for them, that means that Kent Denver will have to return their defense to the field here. And so TCA from their own 20, they start off with a run right, trying to capitalize off of the windedness of the Sun Devils. But Harrington is having none of that and meets the ball carrier at the line of scrimmage. And after a run is tackled for loss by number 66 of this Kent Denver squad, it is now 3rd and 9 here. And they do dial up a pass play here, the Titans that is, to number 13, Jaron Texer here, who does pick up a first down. They follow that up with a toss left to 21, who picks up about 5. And after a run middle is swallowed up by Kent here, it is 3rd and 4. And they have awesome coverage downfield, the Sun Devils that is. And that leads to a sack here by Trip Skews, number 75 here. And that will force a TCA punt. Now, Kent Denver, they will start inside their own 20 on the 14-yard line with 5.5 minutes to go in the half. They do pass it left to number 6, who does pick up a first down. That is Jack Wilson here on the reception. And then they pass over the middle on a seam route to number 3, who mosses all the way to the 21-yard line here. Kent will follow that up with a timeout with 4 minutes and 17 seconds left. Now, Yanni here does take off and gets a solid run, but a hold will bring it back. Now, after a pass left is dropped, they dial up a pass in double coverage to Nick Buchanan here, and that is incomplete, but pass interference is drawn here by Nick, who is just such a big target and just such a mismatch that it sets up 2nd and 5 on the 15-yard line. They zip it right to number 5, who battles 13 for the ball, but ultimately with both players' hands on the football, it is up to the offense here, or is ruled for the offense, and Henry Guttrich gets Kent on the board a second time here and pushes this game forward and makes this a 14-0 lead in favor of Kent. And TCA will commit 2 penalties on the play and on special teams, which will lead to Kent Denver trying 2 onside kicks because they are kicking inside of the Titans' territory. It's like the first time I've ever seen this happen. And so TCA will get possession. The onside kick fails, but they will start on their own 16-yard line. Now, they get a run up the middle for 4 yards that puts them on the 20, and then a pass right to number 9, who picks up the first down. That is Khalil Blush, the junior, on the reception. Now, a pass left to 34, picks up a few yards, and then a first down follows that. There's an unsportsmanlike on Kent, but they respond with 3 and 67, getting a sack on a rollout left, forcing TCA to take a timeout here. TCA will drop back to pass after the timeout, and the quarterback here is hit as he releases the football here, Andrew Brown, and this pass floats up in the air and looks awfully dangerous, but somehow ends up in the hands of Zach Hale, who capitalizes and gets an 18-yard reception. Now, they hand off to number 16, who picks up 8, and TCA takes another timeout with 54 seconds, and Kent responds with a timeout of their own. Now, they pass it left to 25 on a corner route, and number 25, Will Shipfer, is going to score on that 19-yard reception, and a PAT will make it 7-14 with literally just under 59 seconds left in the half. Now, Kent here, they'll have a couple of plays that are short and will force a punt, but TCA would only respond with 2 incompletions, bringing us to have TCA trailing Kent Denver 7-14 heading into halftime. Now, Kent Denver would start with the football here to start the second half, and they get a huge return from their guy Henry Guttrich here that sets them up inside of the opposing 40-yard line. Now, TCA does respond by stonewalling the initial handoff, but then Yanni here takes a read option. Yanni Belfast, by the way, takes a read option and picks up a first down. Now, they throw right here that is interfered with, but still reeled in by number 5 and sets up the Sun Devils on the 6. They call a quick jet front pitch sweep here, right, where 5 easily shrugs off a defender, and Henry Guttrich gets the touchdown here, putting Kent up 21-7. Now TCA, they are on their own 24-yard line. They hand off here and is brought down by number 22 of this Sun Devil defense, Cooper Billings, the middle linebacker. Now, they call a reverse here to number 9, who picks up some before dialing up a run that picks up a first down. Now, after an incompletion and a play action screen left picks up 5, they pass over the middle to their guy number 10, who picks up a first down and gets past midfield inside of the Kent 40-yard line. Now, there's a handoff middle that is stopped quick by number 66 of Kent before another run to the 25 picks up a first down. Now, the snap is botched, and 21/22, Will Howard and Cooper Billings smell blood in the water, and they get a big tackle for loss that loses 5. Now, they call a quarterback keeper left that is only picked up by 2 and forced out of bounds by 67 before a sack from Luke Harrington, number 8, forces 4th and 12. And on this 4th and 12, they have to call a pass here in plus territory. They call a rollout right, and that is intercepted by number 8 here. But the excitement is short-lived as a holding penalty gives the Titans another chance here with a 4th and about 7 here. Now, they call a bread and butter handoff middle that does get a first down, but unfortunately, the bread in question is burnt as there is a forced fumble here, and that is going to be picked up by number 11, Alex Padalino, and taken all the way to the TCA 44-yard line. Now, Kent, with all this momentum, up by 2 scores here. Their first play doesn't yield much, but a swing pass left will pick up a first down. They then find number 11 here with a quick pass for 5, and then a run to number 2 is dragging defenders here all the way inside the 5-yard line. Wyatt Walker keeping his feet pumping here and getting all the way to about the 4-yard line. They hand it off to him again, and he gets to the 3-yard line, and Kent takes a timeout here with 2 minutes and 44 seconds left. It's a little messy as they try and call a jet sweep attempt that loses 2 yards and sets up 3rd and 5. And after delay of game, it is now 3rd and 10. They dial up a pass here that is incomplete, but the field goal attempt is good, putting Kent up 24-7 with 1 minute and 48 seconds left to go in the 3rd. Now, TCA, they have a few runs here that pick up a first down before a couple more sets up 3rd and 1, where they hand off to their guy, number 16, Shipfer here, who picks up the first down to end the 3rd quarter and get TCA past midfield. They open up the 4th quarter with a pass left to Matthew Wright, who goes down the left sideline for a 40-yard receiving touchdown on just the first play of the 4th quarter. And just one play into the 4th, it is now a 10-point game, 14-24, TCA trailing. Now, Kent Denver starts their next drive on their own 20-yard line, and they are immediately met with resistance from number 56, Dalton Robertson here, who makes a nice tackle. After an incomplete pass, it is 3rd and 7, but Yanni does find his guy, number 5 here, who makes a catch and goes upfield for the first down. But the ball gets punched out, and with it on the rug here, it is somehow recovered by number 4, Mateo Augustine here for Kent to maintain possession and start on the other side of midway. Now there's throw left here to 11, and then in one-on-one coverage, they throw it up and get a defensive pass interference call with number 3 and a first down to the 24-yard line. Now they call a pass to 5 for 5, but a holding would make it 2nd and 14. They call a read option left that loses 4 yards here, and that is made by number 4 of TCA, Elijah Wright here. But luckily, Kent Denver here, they get into their bag and they get a hard count jump from TCA. They then pass to the end zone, and after a back and forth battle between 11 and the defender, the ball ends up on the turf. And so Kent will attempt a 43-yard field goal that is good, putting them up 27-14 with 7 minutes and 15 seconds to go. Now TCA, still only down by 2 scores here, will get a solid gain to start, but On the very next play, Trip Skews sacks the quarterback and forces a very tough 3rd and 11 here. Now, with the time working against them here, Andrew Brown here survives 2 almost sacks and somehow finds his receiver for a gain of 8, setting up 4th and 3. But the Titans here on 4th down and 3 call a pitch left, and it gets strung out all the way to the cornerback number 13, Rowdy Yates, who strings that out, and then Alex Padalino helps finish this tackle to force a turnover on downs. Now Kent has the ball to start on the 27-yard line going in, and after a toss left to 2 moves the chains, the Sun Devils look to finish the deal in this contest, handing right to number 2, who picks up 4 yards, and then running a read option left, Yanni Balafas here sticks his foot in the ground and picks up a first down, but a wild penalty pushes them back to the 20-yard line. But it's still 1st and 10. Now there's 4.5 minutes to go, and they call a handoff right, and TCA burns a timeout with 4 minutes to go here. They then call a quarterback draw that gets to the 14-yard line, and another timeout from TCA is their final one with 3 minutes and 55 seconds left. On 3rd and 4, they call a handoff that is short of the sticks, but Kent will kick another field goal, putting them up 30-14 with 3 minutes left. That would do it here for PMC. However, they would get a pick 6, a 99-yard pick 6, mind you, Kent Denver that is, for icing on the cake here. It looks like that pick 6 is Rowdy Yates with a 99-yard interception return, so 2 defensive touchdowns for Kent Denver in this 36-14 win over TCA. This would obviously have a major impact on the CHSAA seeding index from this past week, and Gino will talk more about that coming up in this episode. But, it is worth mentioning that TCA does slide here, and Kent goes all the way up to number 2, and TCA would fall to 7. But before I keep going into all of those details, I am going to pass it off to my guy, Gino.
What is going on, everybody? Gino here with the Playmakers Corner podcast, here to give y'all the recap on our second to last week of regular season 2A football. We had a lot of games going on this week, pretty much all league games with some league championships going on. So let's not waste any more time and jump right into the Thursday games. Starting off our Thursday games, we have Devlin getting the win over Prospect Ridge by a score of 35-6. We don't have any stats for Devlin, but on Prospect Ridge, we have Brad McKinney led the way with 12 tackles. Travis Agbossi, sorry if I mispronounced that, and Vincent Aguilera both had a sack, with Agbossi adding 5 catches for 45 yards on offense, and Aguilera scoring their only touchdown on offense. Next game, we got Bennett 24, Valley 48. For Bennett, Aaron Driggs had a 3 TD performance with 111 yards on 15 carries, and then he also led the team with 8 tackles on defense. Also for Bennett, you got Austin Steers. He had 98 yards rushing, a 71-yard reception, and then a sack on defense. Moving on now, La Junta gets the win over Manitou Springs by a score of 40-14. La Junta dominates Manitou Springs this week and will play an away game at Florence next week to end their season, and they are currently the 5 seed in the playoff index, and that will most likely be their seed to end the year as long as they take care of Florence. After that, we got Elizabeth shutting out Alameda by a score of 56-0. 6 different Elizabeth Cardinals finished with a rushing TD. Malachi Marisol had a receiving touchdown, a 44-yard punt return for a touchdown, and then he also went 8 for 8 on PATs. Elizabeth is right in the middle right now as the 8 seed. That loss to Kent Denver put them in a tough position as they will most likely have to play Basalt or Pagosa Springs in the first round. They end the year with an away game against TCA, who just lost their first game of the year to Kent Denver as well, and whoever wins that one will most likely take the 7 seed in the playoffs. Definitely one of the better 2A games going on this next week, so definitely keep your eyes out for that one. Moving on now, Timnath falls to Weld Central by a score of 12-7. For Timnath, Vince Hochhalter scored Timnath's only touchdown, and he also led the team with 15 tackles and a tackle for loss on defense. Cade Geist put up a sweet 13 tackles and 2 tackles for loss, and Tanner Mock had the team's only sack. And then we had the freshman phenom, Ivan Hochhalter, who had 12 tackles, and then he added another interception to make it 4 on the year, and that will certainly add to his Newcomer of the Year campaign. For Weld Central, you had Marcelo Rossi had a rushing touchdown, and he also led the team with 5 receptions for 45 yards. You also had Rhett Peak. He caught the team's other touchdown, and Jace Cornelius had 92 return yards, while also going 10 for 15 for 115 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. Rounding out our Thursday games here, Sterling gets the win over Arvada 35-21. Sterling won this one on the back of their QB, Hunter Diamond, who had 4 touchdowns and 118 yards on only 10 carries, while also going 5 for 10 for 142 yards passing the ball. Aiden Gandy ran in the other touchdown for the Tigers, and then on defense, Carter Yeager led the team with 10 tackles. And then for Arvada here, it was a big game from Gabriel Mongoya. He finished with 167 yards rushing on 18 carries, and he also led the team with 12 tackles and a forced fumble on defense. Trevor Lucero finished with 240 yards, a touchdown, and a pick on 13 of 24 passing, and then he rushed for 2 more touchdowns and 56 yards on 8 carries. And then you already know Jariah Ariano. He had a nice game here with 92 yards and a touchdown on 5 receptions. Sterling plays University at home to end their season, and that will be their last chance to try and make playoffs. A win there could bring them, it might bring them to the 16th seed or just barely outside. Definitely a game to keep your eyes on in the final week of the season. This loss here puts Arvada completely out of the playoff race, unfortunately. The Bulldogs will end their year at home against Weld Central, and that will be an opportunity to cap their season with a big win. Moving into our Friday games here, starting off here, we got Berthoud getting the win over the Academy by a score of 56-9. Darren Davidson went 8 for 11 for 144 yards and a touchdown. Ben Larson had 108 yards and 2 TDs on 10 carries, and Weston Piotrowski led the way for receivers, finishing with 72 yards, a touchdown on 4 receptions. On defense, Sean Barajas had 1.5 sacks. Jaden Michaelis caught a pick. Benjamin Schroeder blocked a punt and blocked a field goal, and Donovan Mann also blocked a field goal. Berthoud remains undefeated, and they hold the 4 seed in the playoff index. They will most likely finish the year undefeated as they end the year with a game against Steamboat Springs. They will most likely have home field advantage through at least the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. Next game here, we got Alamosa over Florence by a score of 27-25. Dyson Woodward was a part of all 3 Mean Moose touchdowns. He went 13 for 19, 188 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick, and then he rushed for 95 yards and a touchdown on 12 carries. Brant Jackson led receivers in yards and receptions in this one with 7 receptions for 78 yards and a touchdown. Michael Motz had a nice game too with 51 yards and a touchdown on 3 catches. Carter Tolsma had a pick on defense, and then he added 90 yards rushing on 12 carries on offense. For Florence, it was none other than Lucas Nuss leading the way with 103 yards and 2 touchdowns on 13 carries, while also adding 70 yards and a touchdown on 2 receptions. Tanner Rast led the team here with 13 tackles and 1.5 tackles for loss on defense, while also going 6 for 9 for 154 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick on offense. Gunnar Busetti had 8 tackles, 1.5 sacks, and 4 tackles for loss on the game. James Bell also had 6 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and a sack. This win basically secures Alamosa for their playoff seeding, whether it be the 16 or the 15. As long as they take care of Woodland Park to end the season, the Mean Moose will be in the playoffs this year. They have showed a lot of grit in the final weeks of the season, and I have to give them a lot of credit for that. For Florence, they have slipped from the 11 seed all the way down to the 15 seed with this loss. It is now a tough road ahead for Florence, as a loss to La Junta next week and a Montezuma-Cortez win over Delta could completely take them out of the playoffs. This loss to Alamosa definitely complicates things for the Huskies going into their last regular season game of the year. Next game here, we got Rifle getting the big win over Grand Valley on the road, 49-7. Logan Gross did it all per usual. He went 3 for 4 for 118 yards and 2 touchdowns. He rushed for 76 yards and a touchdown on only 2 carries. And then, of course, he had a punt return touchdown as well. Isaac Valencia had a rushing touchdown, and Joel Valencia had a receiving touchdown. And in total for Rifle, you had 6 different players get a touchdown. Rifle is most likely going into the playoffs with that 3 seed, giving them home field advantage through at least the first 2 rounds, and they end the year with an extremely winnable game against Coleridge. Moving on now, Eaton gets the win on the road against Forge Christian by a score of 24-7. Forge Christian had a total of 10 tackles for loss on defense. Carson Craig led the way here with 11 tackles and 3 tackles for loss. You also had Dante Vigil with 10 tackles and a tackle for loss, and then he also rushed for the team's only touchdown. This loss pretty much completely cooks Forge Christian's playoff chances. The Fury will end their year with an away game at Fort Lupton. They had a good season, but will unfortunately finish just outside of the top 16 here. For Eaton, they get the big win here and even moved up in the playoff index after that Florence loss to Alamosa. Eaton will be a sneaky team in the playoffs as they are always a threat, but they could end up playing one of the unbeaten teams in the first round. So it will be very interesting to see what happens with them in these next couple of weeks. In our next game here, we got a league championship matchup where University came out on top at home over Brush by a score of 30-15. For University, Brevin Doss had a huge game in this Patriot East League Championship. He had 143 yards and 2 touchdowns on only 6 carries, and then he also led the team in receptions with 6 for 43 yards and a touchdown. Cole Croissant also killed it. He went 9 for 11, 168 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then you had Dylan Supp, led the team in receiving yards with 99 on 2 catches, and he also had a receiving touchdown. Then you had a monstrous game on defense from Giovanni DeSantiago, putting up a team-leading 15 tackles and 3 tackles for loss. And then also on defense here, Caleb Tejada caught another pick. For Brush, Hunter Proctor went off for 120 yards and a touchdown, receiving on 6 catches. And then Richie Bruno had 148 yards on 26 carries. Huge win for University as they secure the league championship with this win. They will end the year with a scrappy Sterling squad, but they should be able to take care of business there as Brush already beat Sterling early in the season by a lot. Brush won't get the league championship here, but they are still deep in the playoff mix. They will be in that 11-13 range of seeding as long as they take care of Timnath next week, which I fully expect them to. Next game here, Delta gets the win at home. They shut out Bayfield by a score of 49-0. Tyree diced up Bayfield, going 10 for 15 for 189 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he also rushed for another touchdown, bringing it to 4 on the game. Giovanni Romero went off 2. He had 154 yards and a touchdown on only 8 carries. 4 different Panthers caught a TD. And then on defense here, Xavier Martinez led the way with 9 tackles and a sack. And then you had Clayton Cryer, Landon Horn, and Jet Ryan all caught an interception. Delta can go into playoffs with the coveted 1 seed, but they will have to watch out next week as Montezuma-Cortez is hungry for a playoff spot, and they are currently only 1 seed out from making it. Cortez knows that their season is hinging on that game, so Delta better be prepared to face everything they've got. Next game here, we have another league championship with Wellington getting the win over Platte Valley on the road by a score of 26-7. Tanner Gray and Cash Altschwager completely took over in this pivotal game for the Eagles. Gray rushed for 3 touchdowns and 119 yards on 24 carries. Cash had 138 yards and a touchdown on 16 carries. And then Gray also had 5 tackles and a sack and 2 tackles for loss on defense, with Cash also adding 9 tackles and 2 interceptions on defense as well. In total, 5 different Eagles had a sack in this game. This was a huge win for Wellington for a lot of reasons. This win secures the league championship in only their second year as a program and also secures them with a playoff spot. They are going to be a very difficult matchup for whoever is unlucky enough to draw them in the first round. And while this is a huge win for Wellington, this is an equally huge loss for Platte Valley. A win here would have given them a league championship and a spot in the playoffs, but instead, they will end their season just outside. Next week, their last game of the season, they will end the year with a win over Prospect Ridge, with a game over Prospect Ridge that I expect them to win. Moving on now, Basalt gets the win over Coleridge on the road, 42-8. Basalt gets back on track with a win here over Coleridge. They will end their season with a winnable game against Aspen, and then they will most likely fall in the 8-10 range of playoff seeding, assuming nothing crazy happens with them or with the teams in front of them. Moving on now, Woodland Park gets the win at home over Lamar by a score of 49-13. And what a game from Marcus Schoenberger. The junior QB had himself a 6 TD performance. He went 13 of 23 for 281 yards, and all 6 of those touchdowns were passing. For receivers, Evan Bamesberger got 99 yards and 2 TDs on 3 catches. Griffin King had 98 yards and a touchdown on 5 receptions. Parker Shreve had 47 yards and 2 touchdowns on 3 catches. And then Caden Lewis had 37 yards and a touchdown on 2 receptions. And then he also added a pick on defense as well. Rounding out touchdowns in this one, Trey Reed had a punt return for a touchdown. Moving on now, we got Pagosa Springs getting the win over Salida on the road, 42-12. Creed Dozier had a productive game for the Pirates. He went 10 of 16 for 198 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Gavin Lindahl had another great week with 109 yards and 2 touchdowns on 17 carries. Colton Lucero also had 98 yards and a touchdown on 15 carries. For receivers, Seth Aucoin, sorry if I mispronounced that, he led the way with 91 yards and a touchdown on 6 receptions. And then Harley Armijo, he had 61 yards and a touchdown on 2 receptions, while also adding a pick 6 on defense. Speaking of defense, the freshman Jimmy Elodge also had a pick 6, and then Connor Kelly finished with 6 tackles, a sack, and 2 tackles for loss. Pagosa Springs will most likely be going into the playoffs with a top 10 seed and will finish their regular season with an away game at Bayfield, which I expect them to win. They will be difficult for anyone they match up against, especially if they have a balanced attack like they did in this game. In our second to last of the Friday games, we got Moffat County getting a big win over Aspen on the road, 64-28. And this was another monster performance from Ian Champ Hafey as he finished with 6 total TDs, 5 of them rushing, and he had a passing TD as well. He had 156 yards on 23 carries and a 20-yard touchdown pass. And then he wasn't done there, as on defense he had 2 sacks and 5 tackles. Zachary Hedman also went off. He had 167 yards and 2 touchdowns on 14 carries. And then on defense here, Jaden Anderson had 2 sacks. Kenny Fredrickson had 10 tackles, a sack, and 3 tackles for loss. Evan Beaver had 4 tackles, a forced fumble on defense, while also adding 94 yards and a touchdown on only 6 carries on offense. This was a must-win for Aspen to keep their playoff hopes alive, but Moffat County wasn't having any of that. The Skiers will end their season with another tough game next week at Basalt. Moffat County will be heading into playoffs with their only loss in 2A being to a top team in Rifle. They currently sit at the 11th seed right now, and I think they will be a dangerous team to look out for come playoff time. Rounding out our Friday games here, Fort Lupton gets the win on the road over Steamboat Springs, 47-9. Big game from Royce Guerrero here as he went 13 for 17 for 233 yards and 2 touchdowns, while also adding 75 yards and a touchdown on 11 carries on the ground. Jesse Soretto went off here, 7 receptions for 138 yards and a touchdown, while also adding a pick 6 on defense. Josiah Gonzalez also had a nice game with 90 yards, a touchdown on 4 receptions. On defense, Joel Valdez-Rodriguez forced a fumble that Harold McLean scooped up for a touchdown, and Abraham Lawan led the team with 11 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, and half a sack. Now moving into our Saturday games here, we got 2 very exciting games, starting off with Englewood falling to Denver West on the road in a close one by a score of 33-32. Mikhail Garcia for Denver West went 12 of 22 for 220 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks. A lot of 2s there. And then he ran for another touchdown as well, making it 3 on the game for him. Robert Whitkey led receivers with 116 yards and a touchdown on 5 receptions. Khalil Chase caught 5 passes for 42 yards, and Chris Munoz had a 55-yard TD reception. Ahmed Hussein had a huge game with 15 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, and a forced fumble. Then Alexander Ramon had 10 tackles, a sack, and 4 tackles for loss. And then rounding out the stats here for Denver West, Roman Balea had a clutch punt return for a touchdown in the fourth quarter that helped secure a Denver West win. For Englewood, Carson Campbell went 12 of 19, 254 yards and 2 TDs. His leading receiver was Romeo Gonzalez with 101 yards on 2 receptions. Englewood hasn't put in all of their stats, so I'm not sure who scored the touchdowns. But it doesn't look like either of these teams will be making playoffs this year, but they have a lot to be excited about as both teams have showed how great their offenses can be. They're both bound for a playoff spot in the next couple of years for sure. And in our final game of the week on Saturday, we have a league championship matchup between 2 undefeated teams in 2A, with Kent Denver coming out on top over the Classical Academy by a score of 36-14. Shout out Kent Denver for finally putting in their stats on the season. It feels like this is my first time getting to talk about them since I haven't seen any stats until now. But looking at the stats, looks like Iani Belafas, he had a nice game, going 19 for 26 for 230 yards and a touchdown. Their leading receivers were Nicholas Buchenau, sorry if I mispronounced that. He had 6 receptions for 100 yards. And then Henry Gutrick, he had 75 yards and a touchdown on 4 receptions. Buchenau wasn't just feasting on offense, though. He also had 8 tackles, 2 sacks, and 4 tackles for loss on the other side of the ball. Kent Denver on defense was also led by another top playmaker here in Trip Skews. The sophomore had 11 tackles, 2 sacks, and 4 tackles for loss. And then also on defense, Rowdy Yates had a 99-yard pick 6. Alexander Kim finished with 12 tackles and 2 tackles for loss. And then Luke Harrington and Cooper Billings both had a forced fumble, with Harrington taking one in for a touchdown. You also had Rex Corkins on special teams, going 3 for 3 on PATs and 3 for 3 on field goals. TCA won't be winning their league this year, but they will still have a top 10 seed in playoffs. They will end their year against a very top Elizabeth squad in what could be a possible playoff matchup in the first round. And with that win, Kent Denver wins their league and secures a top 3 seed in the playoffs and home field advantage through at least the first 3 rounds. It feels good to be able to know what playmakers this team has, and I just want to throw this out there for their stat keeper, whoever that may be. Please, please, please put your stats in as the season goes so that we can highlight your players. There's just no reason that an undefeated team with championship aspirations should be this anonymous like they have been this year and in previous years. So again, please, please, please put stats in week by week so we can highlight your players. Thank you. And that wraps up our 2A recap. My name's Gino, and I will catch you all later.
Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to the Playmakers Corner podcast. I'm Gideon Egner, and if you're just tuning in today, I am going to be going over the 3A matchup between the Severance Silver Knights and the Roosevelt Rough Riders. I do believe this is a much more competitive matchup than just about anyone would have predicted. Even some of the Severance players agreed with me on that one. But this was a really, really fun game. I'm glad that I went. I'm really glad I was able to see the Hoffman brothers play play together for what's probably going to be the last time. Glad I was able to see the Hartson brothers, the Varney brothers. Really good to see Noah Lucero in person again, get a better look at what he's got going on. And all around, just a really, really good game. Good to see Xavier. Good to see X again. Yeah, all around, just a really, really good game here. But before I spoil any of it, let's just jump right into it, starting with Severance's half of this game. And to start this one, Alex Vaughn's kickoff went for 45, and Anik Henderson, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, shared a tackle with Brett Varney. Reed Green saved a touchdown, and then Mason Campbell got a tackle. Remington Reeves brought a man down, and then Severance allowed a touchdown from the 1-yard line to go in. This puts Severance down 0-7 less than 3 minutes into the first. On O, Ian Pennick ran for 15 and then again for 14. Jaden Hoffman threw to Brady Varney for 8, and then Pennick ran for 3 and first down. However, this didn't amount to much, as there was a fumble on a pitch shortly thereafter, meaning that Ryan Myers was able to get a tackle. Brett Varney was able to get in and bring a man down, and then Campbell got a huge tackle that felt insane. Kason Falsetti got his first of the night, and then Kelson Gazdick got one, and then Green got another to end the first. Campbell started off the second with a tackle, followed by Myers. Falsetti then made the most of a big moment and punched out the ball on a scramble, forcing a fumble which was recovered by David Anderson. Pennick ran for 11 and then again for 10, and then Jaden Hoffman ran for 2 and a first down, followed by him throwing to Brady Varney for 15 and then to Caden Glover for 12. Jaden Hoffman saw an opening and scrambled for 15 onto the 2, which Ian Pennick then was pushed through for a touchdown, making it 7-7 with 4:37 on the clock. Vaughn's kickoff went 45 yards, and then Falsetti got a tackle. Glover got one himself, and then Anik Henderson got one on 3rd and short. Logan Tiny, that's what it says on the roster, Villines, got a resounding pass deflection in the red zone, and then Campbell got one on the very next play. Devontae Cisneros brought a man down, which helped to force a timeout. And then a holding call saved Severance on a touchdown, and Gazdick got another tackle. Gazdick then got a pass deflection, and after a timeout with 4 seconds left in the half, a group tackle stopped a touchdown on a fake field goal attempt to end that frame of play. Number 30 started the second half with a 15-yard kickoff return, but blocking in the backfield eventually led to a 3-and-out on this possession. Jonah Beck would punt for 30, and then a Green tackle would save a touchdown. However, Roosevelt scored shortly thereafter, so it was 7-14 for Severance with 8:32 on the board. Pennick would then run for 15 and would receive a 15-yard scramble pass from Jaden Hoffman. Jaden Hoffman would then throw to Jeremiah Hoffman for 9. Pennick would run for 11, and then Jaden would throw to Brady for a 15-yard touchdown, where Brady shedded his tackler and made it another 8 yards after the contact was finished. After the PAT, the game was tied at 14 with 4:05 in the third. The kickoff went for 45, and then Anik Henderson got a tackle. Villines brought a man down, and then Falsetti and Myers shared one. After Myers had some good coverage, Reeves had a tackle out, and after holding in the red zone, both Pennick and Falsetti had tackles to end the third quarter. Severance immediately allowed a touchdown in the fourth quarter and went down 14-21, 4 seconds into the frame. Jaden threw to Brady for 11, and then Pennick ran for 8. Jaden threw to Jeremiah for 5 before passing to Pennick for 40, and then Jaden would scramble and run in a 15-yard tutty, breaking multiple tackles, making it 21 all with 7:37 on the clock. The kickoff was a touchback, and then Green got a pass deflection. After a face mask call, Falsetti got a tackle that helped to force a punt. Glovers carried for 5, and then Jaden pitched to Pennick for 12. Pennick ran for 13 more, but after a false start, he ran for 8 more. Jaden then threw up a pass that was snatched out of the air by Jeremiah Hoffman for a 25-yard touchdown, but the kick went wide right. This made it only a 27-21 game with 2:35 left. And unfortunately for the Silver Knights, this was too much time. Vaughn's kickoff went 54 yards, and then Brett Varney got a huge pass deflection that could have been a pick. Brett and Logan Gutierrez then got a tackle that forced 4th and 1, but it was converted, meaning that Onik Henderson and Green got some tackles. The defense then got dogged on a 45-yard touchdown pass with 22 seconds left to go down 28-27. Jeremiah returned the kickoff for 10 and then caught a pass for 5. On the final play of the game, Pennick got the ball, carried for about 8, lateraled it back to Jeremiah, and Maya was streaking down the field, dodging defenders, breaking ankles for about 40 yards when he got pushed out at roughly the 30, where Severance would fall 27-28 to the Roosevelt Rough Riders. However, the thing about this game is that nobody thought it would be that close. Severance is a team that entering this was 2-5, so the fact that they got this close against the reigning champs is pretty darn good. And a big part of why they were able to get this close is Kason Falsetti, the defensive playmaker of the game, who played much, much bigger than his size. At 5'8", the middle linebacker/center played huge, forcing that fumble very early on and making sure that the momentum stayed in Severance's side of the field until that very last drive. Falsetti is somebody that you could count on always being in the mix in this one, both offensively and defensively. Offensively, he certainly held his own against that Roosevelt D-line, but yeah, defensively, he was the guy for this Silver Knight squad. Here's Falsetti with what he thought about this matchup.
When we're looking at this game overall, you came out swinging. You got that forced fumble early on to really swing the momentum Severance's way, right?
Yes.
And so you're looking at some really big boys on the other side of the line. You played much bigger than your size. What is your key to being able to do that on a week-to-week basis, to be able to make sure you get this as close as possible like you did tonight?
Just staying low, fighting as hard as you can. I don't really know. Not letting them win, putting more effort into it.
You played with as much energy as I've seen a team play with over the 2 years that I've done this. And what's your key to making sure the defense keeps up that intensity heading into these last couple of weeks?
Just trying to keep everyone's heads up, keep fighting, just keep playing the ball, having fun, not giving up, even though, can't really do much now. Just have fun.
And that's a good attitude to carry into the rest of the season here, because even though the season may not end in the playoffs for the Severance Silver Knights, there's still a lot of fun to be had. And when I was talking with with one of our co-offensive playmakers of the game, Brady Varney, he shared a similar sentiment. But we'll get to that in a moment, because we also have to talk about our other co-offensive playmaker of the game, Ian Pennick. So both Pennick and Varney had really huge roles in this one. Pennick had a lot of good gains on the ground, and every single run, it felt like it was a guaranteed 7 yards if he was the one carrying it. He ended up getting a touchdown in this one, a couple of long passes his way. And Pennick has a really bright future in Severance if he keeps playing like this. And then we have Varney, who, as a tight end, he had to hold his own against one of the better defenses in the state in Roosevelt. And here's the thing, he didn't give up a single sack during this game, but he also had over 50 receiving yards and a bulldozing touchdown, which is a critical momentum swing in this game. Here's Varney with his thoughts on this insane matchup.
All in all, tonight you had some great catches. You had that touchdown where you just blasted off your defender and you were able to get into the end zone. Really, one of the sparks that made this game the way that it ended up being. What was your mindset heading into this game? Because you know they are the defending state champs, but you came in here and you punched them in the mouth.
It's just a lack of respect. I mean, we want respect. I mean, even though the last 2 years our record hasn't shown that, I mean, we're building something great here. We're not I don't even know how old Roosevelt is, but this is our 5th year. We're trying to build a dynasty here, something great. So we just want respect. We came out here, we had nothing to lose. Gave it all. I mean, they had everything to lose. Defending state champs, playing a 2-5 Severance. I mean, gave it our all. Plus, we wanted it more. I mean, pretty close to each other, so we wanted it bad.
Yeah, and I mean, that final possession, it may not show on the box score, but you really did show a lot of heart. And your little brother, he got that. Is he your little brother?
Yep, he is, Brett.
He got that pass deflection there
Brett,
on the other side of the field. How does it feel to play with your younger brother here in these last year for you?
It's quite amazing, actually. I mean, we all play basketball. He has a twin too, but we all play basketball. But being able to share field with my brother Brett, who's going to be a sophomore, is just something else. I mean, something that just lasts forever. It's a memory. You get to do stuff together. You're your best friend on your field, is what you could say. I mean, you're always cheering each other up, having each other's backs. I mean, it is one of the true, I don't know what you'd say, brotherly love. I don't know. Brotherhood on a team. I love it. It's nothing better.
Some very wise words here from Brady Varney. I'm going to start with the first part, and he talks about how going into this matchup, Severance didn't have anything to lose. And it brings me back to that old quote that says that the only enemy more dangerous than man with unlimited resources is one with nothing to lose. And really, that was the thesis of this matchup. Severance really came in and just powered through. And moving on to that second bit, this is the type of game that builds for generations. Well, not generations, but like generations of players. So in 2-3 years, the guys who are sophomores and freshmen now will say, listen, we know what this situation's like. I mean, Brady touched on it there. His younger brother, Brett, is a sophomore right now. Which, by the way, if Brady is 6'6" and over 200 pounds, Brett is 6'5", over 200 pounds, and there's another Varney brother. I don't know how your parents can afford to feed you guys. But back to the main point. A lot of siblings playing in this one. A lot of family dynasties that, as Brady said there, Severance is hoping to build. And another member of one of the more talented sibling duos in the state is our playmaker of the game for the Severance Silver Knights, Jaden Hoffman, who held this game in his hands. What he did in this one, in that fourth quarter, is what all quarterbacks hope to do someday. He took over a drive, got a few scores, and managed to pull off some improbable touchdowns and almost got a huge upset win. He ended up having over 200 yards, 3 total touchdowns, and brought a hell of a lot of energy to this game. And here is Jaden Hoffman on his side of this near upset.
When we're looking at tonight, you almost pulled up one of the more stunning upsets I've seen in person. If you'd asked anybody in the state, they would have picked against you, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
But you were able to come through and almost pull out the dub there. What was the secret ingredient for you guys in this matchup?
Our coach came to us and he said that we've been wanting it every game, but we haven't came together. It hasn't been a team. It's been a few players. They won it, and today everyone wanted it. Everybody wanted that win. Everybody wanted to be on the field. They wanted to hit. They wanted to catch the ball. They wanted to make plays, and it shows. It shows we've had a great performance.
Yeah, and I mean, even on that last play, you had a pretty good shot of getting it, but you know, these types of games just provide toughness.
Yeah.
And how does it feel to play these last few games, playoffs or not, with your brother?
Oh my God, it's so fun. I've been playing with him for so many years, and just to have that chemistry and to get a throw to my brother my best friend, it's just an amazing feeling.
Very good. And what was your all-around favorite moment of tonight's game?
It's got to be that last touchdown I threw to Maya up in the end zone. I was feeling on top of the world at that moment. It was great.
I can imagine the feeling, Jaden. I've only felt it a couple times in my life, and I mean, very few people ever will. And so, all around, it kind of sucks not having Jeremiah Hoffman as one of the playmakers of the game, but he will be next year when I head out to Severance. But honestly, this was just a really good one. The other side of this, though, we got to get to them here soon. They are the Roosevelt Rough Riders, and to start this one for the Riders, Xavier Ramirez had a 15-yard kickoff return, and then Bronco Hartson threw to Ramirez for about 40. Ramirez then ran for 15 before Hartson passed to Jace Guntel for 5. Ramirez then punched in a tutty, which Sean Balch hit the PAT for to make it 7-0 for the Riders with 9:49 on the clock. Balch's kickoff went 40, and then Tristan Montanez got a tackle. Guntel got a tackle of his own, and then Roosevelt took a timeout with 5:46 on the board. Evan Hayes then forced a fumble, which Brody Hartson recovered. Bronco then threw to Noah Lucero for 10 before Ramirez ran for 7. Lucero then blocked really, really well on a 7-yard run by Ramirez to end the first. In the second, it started off with a fumble for Roosevelt, which put the Riders on defense. Lucero got a tackle, and after an offsides call, Noel Sanchez got one as well. Kason Lopez got a tackle for loss, but he seemed to be the main guy holding it together on this drive, as the defense was shaky before he got another tackle. This was futile, though, as Severance would score, making it 7-7 with 4:37 left. Ramirez ran for 20 on the kickoff return, and then for 12 over 2 downs. Hartson threw to Trevor Carabench for 9, and then to Caden Potberg for 25 on 3rd and 3. There was a 15-yard touchdown, but holding brought it back before a false start, and Ramirez made a gain of 7. And then Roosevelt took a timeout, and the reason I pause here is because it was a very weird play. Because they went for the field goal, but it was a fake field goal. Bronco was the holder. He gets the ball, tosses it up for... I'm not even sure if it was Ramirez. It may have been... Either way, it was kind of like a slow, lob more than it was like a pitch. And so it was just a slow play. It allowed Severance to read it really well, and it fell short heading into halftime. Roosevelt and Severance were tied at 7 heading into the second half. Entering the third quarter, though, Balch's kickoff was for 55 yards, and then Bronco got a tackle, as did Julian Lara. Lucero returned a punt for 20, and Ramirez ran for 20 more. And then Bronco punched in a resounding touchdown that the sound of him colliding with the defender made my neck hurt, to put Roosevelt up 14-7 with 8:32. After a touchback kickoff, Sanchez got a tackle, and following a face mask penalty, Gunzel brought a man down, along with Steven Krymeyer and Potberg sharing one. Hayes got another tackle, and then Lucero did the same, but the Riders allowed a passing touchdown with a broken tackle, making it 14-all with 4:05 on the board. Ramirez returned the kickoff for 15, and then Lucero ran for 11. And after a lot of small gains, Bronco fake punted for a 15-yard run. After a false start, Bronco threw to Carabench for 12, and then again to Joey Brake for 12 to end the quarter. In the fourth, Ramirez immediately got a touchdown 4 seconds into the quarter, and Balch hit the PAT to make it 21-14 late in this game. Balch's kickoff went 58 on a bounce, and then Michael Garcia brought a man down. Jax Armstrong got a pass deflection and a tackle, before Bronco got a tackle and then got a trip up right after. Lucero got one of his own before a teammate's face mask call, and then Hayes stopped a touchdown. However, a touchdown was shortly thereafter allowed, making it 21 even with 7:37 left. Ramirez returned the kickoff for 20 yards, but a slew of false starts and holding penalties led to some trickier plays, like where Bronco handed off to Ramirez, who then handed it off to Gunzel for about 15 yards. However, after some long throws were off, Bronco punted for about 25, and then Hayes got another tackle, before lineman Carter Emmons went down and was taken out. And I know I haven't said Emmons' name much tonight, but he was a critical piece in this Roosevelt line. Lucero got another tackle, but Roosevelt allowed another touchdown to go down 27-21 with 2:35 due to the PAT being off. This was more than enough time, though, for the reigning champs who had to battle back from a big deficit in the title game last year, and it started with some experienced players making big plays. First off, we have who else but Xavier Ramirez returning the kickoff for 15 yards. And after a timeout with 1:39 and a holding call, Bronco threw to Gunzel for 15, who then threw to Carabench for 8. Bronco then lined it up from about 45 yards out, lobbed it up. Well, not lobbed, that thing was on a string, and it hit Noah Lucero, who caught it just in the end zone over his defender's outstretched hand, snatched that thing out of the air, and that made it 27-27. Balch hit the PAT true as they come with 22 seconds left to make it 28-27, and all Roosevelt had to do was maintain their 1-point lead for a third of a minute. Balch's kickoff went 45, and then Carabench and Hayes both got pass deflections before, on a weird lateral play, Noah Lucero clutched up for the second time in 30 seconds of PT and pushed out a Hail Mary 40-yard run on the 30 as the clock hit 0 to win the game for the Roosevelt Rough Riders. Which, that was insane. That was an insane game. I am so glad I went. Simon was there too. He made the 3-hour drive from Colorado Springs to watch these boys play. If I'm being honest, we didn't think the result would be like that. But, whoo, baby. Before we go to the summary, I'm going to talk about the players of the game, or playmakers of the game. And before I do this segment, I do have to apologize to our co-offensive playmakers of the game, Bronco Hartson and Xavier Ramirez. See, the thing is, when we ran into each other on the way out and we talked, y'all two seemed like you were in a hurry, and I didn't want to stop you for too much longer because you were already on your way out. But then I realized after, because Noah Lucero, he was stopped talking to his parents, and I realized after, wait a second, I should have just asked to be sure. So that's on me. But regardless, ex-Bronco, it's good to catch up with you guys. You guys are PMC fam. I hope you know that. And it was a pleasure to be able to see you guys both play. Hopefully not for the last time. Hopefully I'll see you guys deep into the playoffs. But now to talk about the actual games that they had. I mean, these two are obviously experienced. This is a quarterback RB duo that won state last year. And they're two of the best at their position in the entire state. And that experience is what won them this game. That composure. I've heard people in the past say that being there before doesn't count for much. Like, it doesn't have an effect. But this game, in my mind, is the prime example to show people when they say that, because X and Bronco took over in that final possession. Now, they've been in similar situations before, and they knew what they were doing. Bronco got the ball into the right spot almost every single time, and then X was really, really good on kick returns, a guaranteed 20 yards there, and his vision is absolutely insane. There was nothing that really could stop them, especially when they have that third option in our playmaker of the game. And yeah, these two are one of the better duos in the state, one of the more dynamic threats in the state, and create one of the more dangerous offenses in the state when they're cooking. But speaking of our playmaker of the game, I think this is the first time I've had a freshman as a playmaker of the game. We have the receiver / safety, Noah Lucero. Now, again, this kid's a freshman, but this is highly, rightfully deserved. Lucero was making plays all night on both sides of the ball. He's been on our watch list for Newcomer of the Year. You guys saw this earlier in the year with our Instagram post. And this certainly boosted his stock, seeing him in person. He may not be an upperclassman, but he sure damn well played like it. And this Newcomer of the Year race, it's basically down to, in 3A, Lucero, Carter Hayward from Palisade, and Dolphka Lewis from Pueblo East. Those are the only three that I see having a chance, and Lucero just... I mean, to be able to come in as a freshman and be able to pull off a 45-yard game-winning touchdown reception for the reigning state champs in what ended up being a 1-point win, and then getting the game-saving tackle on one of the fastest players in the state. Here's Lucero with how he stays composed in situations like this as a greenhorn.
You had a damn good game tonight, making your impact both on offense and being a defensive disruptor there. Not only did you get the game-winning touchdown, but you got a game-winning tackle there on the best wide receiver in the state. Yeah. So, first, how does it feel to come in as a freshman and be able to perform on the level that you are this year?
It feels great. I've always played at a high level, always grown up. It feels good to be able to show my talent now at the real level and just be able to get my name out there.
Yeah, and I mean, you came into a program that won the state championship last year, that lost a guy like Tucker Peterson, so you had some big shoes to fill. What were your expectations for yourself coming into this year?
My goals were to beat Tucker Peterson's records. I want to be better than Tucker Peterson.
Very, very worthy goal. And finally, what was going through your head as you were running down the sideline and you get that touchdown over the defender in coverage?
As soon as I saw the ball flying my way, I just knew I had to catch it. My team was counting on me. Everyone was counting on me. And as soon as I caught it, I just knew that we had that game. We won.
And one last thing. Obviously, some teams are going to look at this game and see the box score and how close it was down to the last minute. How is Roosevelt as a team, do you think, going to bounce back and make sure that you carry high momentum heading into the playoffs? Because you're going to have some tough matchups.
Yeah, we're just going to keep our heads high, keep doing what we're doing, and fix all the mistakes we make and come back better.
Thank you very much, Noah. And it's kids like these that make me have faith in long-term, not just Colorado football, but athletics in general. Because this is a guy that was excited, this is a guy that's working hard, and this is a guy that is making sure that that legacy continues, but is also, he's confident, but he's not cocky. He wants to break those records, but acknowledges how hard that's going to be. And so that sounds like somebody that's ready to put in the work. Now, I'm going to stop blowing smoke here. I know a lot of people are going to say that's what it sounds like, but legit, the kid's just good. But on to the summary of this matchup for the 28-27 win for Roosevelt over the Severance Silver Knights. This was a really entertaining game. I think this was a trap game for the Rough Riders. They obviously did not think that Severance was going to give them that type of fight, but their experience ended up pulling out in the end. The one thing that I'm concerned about heading into these last 2 weeks of the season for Roosevelt is that next week they're facing a pretty solid line, and they just lost one of their top linemen, because Carter Emmons, really, really solid player, and they have less rest than usual. They're going to be playing Thompson Valley on Thursday, so that's going to be tough for them. Mountain View the week after. I mean, Mountain View did beat Northridge, and Northridge did beat Roosevelt, so I'm never going to say never. You never say never in this business. But the odds that Mountain View win that game are very, very low. Now, for Thompson Valley, I'd say Roosevelt wins that about 65% of the time, but they're going to have to be careful, because Thompson Valley knows the formula now. They got guys like Riley Suarez and Marco LaPierre. They've got some solid dudes over there. So if you're Roosevelt, you're going to have to be careful, because you don't want to go in there with the energy you had this night and think you're going to pull out a dub. But for Severance, from here the rest of the season is building. Right now, you're 2-6. Winning this game was basically the only way you're going to make the playoffs. And despite the valiant effort, you fell short. Next week, they'll be playing Mountain View. I think if they keep this energy, they can go in and... I mean, Mountain View is technically still available to get a playoff spot, because they're only at 21, I want to say, right now. The 21 seed, despite being 1-7, because they've been performing really well against the Thompson Valley's Res Christians, getting wins against Northridge. And yeah, that, like, depending on how they do these next couple of weeks, Mountain View might actually get a playoff spot. Like, it's not likely, but it could happen. But I do think Severance is going to win that game. Northridge is going to be tougher, but if Severance comes in with the energy that they did in this game, I can see it being much, much closer. And I can see Severance pulling out a win maybe like 40 to 45% of the time. Mountain View, Severance wins probably 70% of the time. But, I mean, think of it this way. Northridge beat Roosevelt. So Northridge knows what it takes to beat that team, or even come close to beating that team. Mountain View beat Northridge. So depending on what happens there, all I'm saying is that it's likely that Severance finishes this season 1-1, probably overall 3-7. So not what they're hoping for, but still an all-around all-right year. And then Roosevelt, it's looking like to me probably 2-0, a chance for 1-1. If you go 0-2 here, you're screwed. But I honestly think it's going to be 2-0 for Roosevelt here. And that will probably do it for me for this episode. That was a really entertaining game. This week, though, I'm planning on going to the 1A Longs Peak League matchup between Highland and Manual. Whoever wins that game is going to snatch up the 16 seed heading into the playoffs in 1A. So I feel pretty good about that. That'll be a really, really fun game. But I hope that everyone listening, I hope that you all are having good days. If you're not, make sure you go home, get a shower, get a good night's sleep, stay hydrated, eat as much as you need to. And yeah, just stay safe, don't die, don't get captured. And I'll see you all next week. Peace.
What's good, y'all? Coach V here, and I got your Week 9 3A recap. Before I forget, this is not the last regular season 3A recap, as there will be one more week of the regular season after this one. So there you go there. But let's go ahead and talk about it, what happened here in Week 9, starting with the Thursday, October 19th games. We have Frederick versus Denver North. Frederick trying to fight for a playoff spot here, and they get a huge win over Denver North, 41-36. Gavin Ishmael with a Playmaker of the Week candidate type of performance here. 20 of 28, 339 yards, 4 touchdowns, only 1 pick, and 41 rushing yards as he leads Frederick over Denver North in a very important league game and game for them to make the playoffs. Moving on, Confer takes down Littleton 56-14. Jackson Kosar 3 of 3 for 86 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. Also 68 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Green Mountain shuts out Wheat Ridge 50-0. Blake Westland 62 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 52 rushing yards, and a rushing touchdown. Then we have Resurrection Christian beating Mountain View 34-19, kind of in a close one here, but Res continuing their role here as they take care of business, and Mountain View continuing to fight to the very end of this season. Moving on, we have Riverdale Ridge beating George Washington 43-13. Isaiah Medina 24 of 29 for 270 passing yards, 2 touchdowns and rushing touchdown. And then Diego Glavin here looks like had 160 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's a sophomore running back. So big time plays by that sophomore for Riverdale Ridge in their dub. Then Discovery Canyon, they take care of Canyon City's 56-28. Jacob Youssef with another big game, 144 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. Evergreen takes care of Skyview here, 25-6. Josh Bittner, 155 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. Pueblo South beats Harrison 40-7. Chase Hurley, 253 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns on only 9 carries. And then Pueblo South's Jake Preciada here, 6 receptions, 94 receiving yards, and 3 receiving touchdowns for the young sophomore receiver. Thompson Valley takes care of Northridge 43-14. Riley Suarez, 9-12, 149 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 101 rushing yards, and a touchdown in a big-time effort, as he has also been on a roll these last couple weeks. Meade takes care of Niwot 14-3. Holy Family takes care of Fort Morgan 49-7. Ryland Cooney 14 of 18 for 336 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, only 1 pick. Also tagged on 2 rushing touchdowns and 16 yards. Let's move on to Friday Night Lights here on October 20th. Kennedy takes down Lincoln 50-0. Durango takes out Eagle Valley 48-7. Jackson Fancher, a great game here. 6 carries for 96 yards and 3 touchdowns in a big-time game there. Sierra blows out Pueblo Centennial 64-6. Pueblo County takes down St. Creek 48-8. Terrell Delhala here, or Delaha here, he had 113 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns in that one. Lutheran beats Northfield in kind of a close one here. Ryken Doggard, 15 of 28, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Also had 75 rushing yards. Luhigh dominated the fourth quarter in this one. It was 12-13 going into that one. I believe they were down, but a touchdown pass to Tegan Magnelis and a 2-point conversion on that will make it a 20-13 lead in the fourth. Another touchdown to Evan Mackay, passing touchdown, will make it out of reach, 26-13 with 7 minutes left there, as Lutheran takes care of Northfield with a big fourth quarter. Ryken Doggard with those 2 touchdowns, both coming in the fourth. Glenwood Springs with some controversy here. They do lose their head coach and some coaches for the season, it looks, but they do gain an interim coach here who does have coaching experience, I believe, from Roaring Fork. And so, big story there, but Glenwood Springs still takes care of Summit 50-33. Mason Markovich with a big game in that one. Pueblo Central takes down Lewis Palmer in a close one, 29-22. Central actually had a 29-7 lead with 6 minutes left in the third, but 2 Jaden Pagano touchdown runs and a 2-point conversion would make it a 29-22 game with 5 minutes left. But Pueblo Central would basically salt away all 5 minutes to go ahead and win that one there. And then finally here, Roosevelt takes care of Severance 28-27. Gideon went ahead and recapped that instant classic there. That was a good one. Jaden Hoffman, 206 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 30 rushing yards, and a touchdown in a big-time game there. But Bronco Hartson playing extremely well as well. 13 of 25 for 228 passing yards, a touchdown, also 39 rushing yards, and a touchdown there as Roosevelt survives the potential upset here and will continue to move on. Okay, now let's go ahead and move on and talk about the playoff picture and look at the Chassis seeding index. At the time I'm doing this, it is currently Sunday, October 22. I don't know if these rate or this index is going to stay the same. It should. It says the RPI updated just about an hour ago, and then it also said Max Preps rankings updated today. We'll see if it updates again, but just wanted to make sure I set the date there just in case. But let me go ahead and go down the line here, talk about who's in it and what the picture is looking like right now. At number 1 is Green Mountain, number 2 is Holy Family, 3 Durango, 4 Lutheran, 5 Roosevelt, 6 Riverdale Ridge, 7 Thompson Valley, 8 Pueblo Central, 9 Resurrection Christian, 10 Lewis Palmer, 11 Northfield, 12 Meade, 13 Discovery Canyon, 14 Glenwood Springs, 15 Pueblo South, and 16 is Pueblo County. Now, the teams that are just outside vying for a spot in the playoffs goes like this. Number 17 is Frederick at 4-4, 18 Palisade at 3-5, Pueblo East at 3-4, Denver North at 4-4, and Northridge at 5-3. And you do have Mountain View at 1-7. They're at 22 here according to the rankings, but I don't think they can make it at this point. And so, like I said, 2 more games to the season, but the second to last week, there are definitely some important games that will affect seeding at the very least and who might make it. So here we go. Let's talk about it, starting with Roosevelt versus Thompson Valley, number 5 Roosevelt versus number 7 Thompson Valley. This will affect seeding, obviously, so there you go there. Probably not dramatic. Both will definitely make it. But, you know, as far as who will have a home game in the second or third round, that could be important. So there you go there. Severance, they go ahead and they'll play Mountain View. Severance is 24. Mountain View is 22 here. I'm going to list it because there is a chance Severance needs to win out. That it would have been a huge win over Roosevelt, but unfortunately lost by 1. If they win out, they would play Mountain View and then Northridge, who's at 5-3. And then some teams will probably have to lose, and so we'll see, but just wanted to include that one. Durango, who is now sitting at number 3, will go ahead and play number 18 Palisade here. Durango should probably win this one, but for Palisade, you want this to be as close as possible so that you can be within striking distance of the playoffs and maybe have a lucky bounce. They do play Glenwood Springs at the end of the season here, so you know you want to keep this as close as possible for the rankings and RPI and all that stuff. Moving on here, Meade at number 12 plays number 17 Frederick. If Frederick wins this one, they should be in the playoffs. I'd have a hard time seeing them not making the playoffs there, and that would be huge for them as they do play George Washington, and G-Dub is currently sitting at 26, so doesn't matter, you know, about that game. Well, not really. They need to win it, obviously, still, but this Meade game, if they want to make the playoffs, they really need to beat Meade or get close to doing that. For Meade, there is a chance that they could drop out, depending on how that game goes, and so we'll just have to see what happens there. Moving on here, Discovery Canyon at number 13 will go ahead and play number 19 Pueblo East here. If Pueblo East beats Discovery Canyon, I don't know if they make the playoffs. They could get really close there, but obviously you want to punch up and get a big one there. Pueblo East will play Pueblo County as well, but obviously you want to keep it as close as possible so you can stay in that playoff race, as this is extremely close here, so got to keep an eye on that one. And then last but not least, we have number 9 Resurrection Christian playing number 21 Northridge. Northridge unfortunately has dropped a lot despite being at 5-3 here, and so at this point they really need a quality win to move forward here, or at least play a team quality for them to have a chance at making the playoffs. Rez is probably locked into the playoffs at this point unless they just completely blow it, but even then I don't know. But for Northridge, they really need to win this game to make it, as their next game will be against Severance, and there's no way for them to move up if they beat Severance and lose to Res, and so that's a big game for them. But there you go there. Those are the key games moving forward. Next week, we'll still do a recap and whatnot, and we'll go ahead and talk about the playoff picture going into that last week of the season. So I will see, or you will hear from me then. Coach V here, and I'm going to go ahead and recap 4A here in week 9. It is October 22nd, Sunday, when I am talking about all these games. So let's go ahead and hop into this one, starting with the Thursday games on the 19th. Heritage hammers Aurora Central 54-0. Lucas Madrid, 7 tackles, a tackle for loss and a sack. Nick Long, 6 tackles, 2 sacks. Kurt Rossner, 7 of 12 for 156 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. But most importantly, 399 rushing yards and 6 rushing touchdowns from this offense. A bunch of different people getting involved there. Pueblo West hammers Coronado 41-6. Gavin Lockett, 173 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Also 92 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns in that one. Bear Creek, they take down Stanley Lake 19-0, and that'll wrap up the Thursday games. Moving on to Friday Night Lights on October 20th, Dakota Ridge takes down Grand Junction 55-21 here. Blake Palladino playing some good football down the stretch, 6 of 14, 178 passing yards for 3 passing touchdowns, also 8 rushing yards for a touchdown, as Dakota Ridge ran the ball well against Grand Junction there. Montrose beats Mesa Ridge 43-12. Gateway beats Palmer 24-17. A rushing touchdown at 4 minutes left will put that one away. Vista Peak takes care of business against Hinckley 67-0. Rampart gets a big time win. They haven't beaten Vista Ridge here in a long time, but they did it this last Friday. 35-19. Camden runs 11 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, but Peter Richardson with a Playmaker of the Week type of performance, 9 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, and 2.5 sacks for Rampart there to go ahead and defeat Vista Ridge. Erie takes down Longmont 57-13. The biggest story from this one was Blake Barnett, because in this game, he passed 7 of 10 for 167 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, also ran for 118 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, and that would be enough to go ahead and break Christian McCaffrey's all-time Colorado high school football touchdown record. So there you go there. Congratulations to Blake Barnett. This is a guy that he's one of the few players that we have covered from year 1 of his freshman year, start 1, to basically his senior year. And so that's a huge for him there. Or actually, I don't know if we covered him from year 1, but we definitely knew about him then and then covered him all the way through. So congratulations to Blake Barnett, the new all-time touchdown leader in Colorado high school football history. So there you go there. Falcon, they beat Air Academy in a close one, 42-25. Carter Thorpe with 170 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Gabriel McFarland with 150 rushing yards and 2 more touchdowns to add on there, as Falcon continues to ride it out and are going to probably make the playoffs here. Moving on here, Windsor beats Loveland 28-10. This was a big-time game for them. Mikey Munn with a Playmaker of the Week type of performance, 132 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. Also had 5 tackles, 1 interception, and an 80-yard kick return for a touchdown in a win over Loveland that would go ahead and give Windsor actually the league title there for the first time here in a minute. So congrats to Windsor. Centaurus, they beat Whitefield for the league title 41-21. Ben Mishke, 183 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Chance Wood, only 56 passing yards for a touchdown, but also had 115 rushing yards and a touchdown, as Centaurus will be making the playoffs here and will probably be taking the number 24 spot if they're not already in that spot. So there you go. Monarch takes down West here 44-11. That is Greeley West, by the way. Riley Montemayor still in at quarterback, but won 7 of 11 for 120 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Also rushed for 17 yards and a touchdown. At this point in the season, one does have to wonder if Monarch will go back to their old quarterback or if they're just going to ride it out with Riley Montemayor for the rest of the season and the playoffs. So there you go, an interesting story there. Palmer Ridge blows out Cheyenne Mountain 54-7. Derek Hester 3-4, 61 passing yards, 1 touchdown. Also had 73 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Holden Wright with 5 tackles and a pick 6 in that one as they take care of business. Grand Junction Central beats Skyline by a field goal, 3-0. Liberty, they would go ahead and blow out Thornton 49-0 there. Broomfield, I believe, would go ahead and win their league, defeating Fruita Monument 21-6. CT Worley in this one, 4 of 8 for 62 yards, 51 rushing yards, and a touchdown in that league championship basically there. Golden beats Adams City. They haven't posted the score at the time I'm recording this, but they definitely beat him. And then Greeley Central with a big-time win here over Silver Creek, 40-33. Jeannot Trujillo, 15 of 18 for 214 yards and 3 touchdowns. Uber efficient in that one. Carlos Cardoza also adding 159 rushing yards and a touchdown. Also 3 receptions for 69 yards. For Silver Creek, Eli Mears, 5 of 14, 185 passing yards, a touchdown and a pick. And then Cole Rogers with 165 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Unfortunately, though, in a losing effort. Moving on to Saturday, we only have 2 games here, but Denver South, they take down Far Northeast 35-7. Freshman standout Elijah Landrum Hamilton, 9 receptions, 80 yards, and a touchdown in that one. Pondo would go ahead and take down Thomas Jefferson 21-6 here. I want to say that would basically win their league, assuming they go ahead and beat Bear Creek here. So there you go, Ponderosa winning 21-6. Dimitri Herlambopoulos for Thomas Jefferson, 132 passing yards, 1 touchdown to only 2 picks. Also has 112 rushing yards and a touchdown, unfortunately, though, in a losing effort. All right, now let's go ahead and talk playoff picture here, as we are in the last week of the regular season here in 4A. And next week, I'm not going to be able to do a recap, obviously. I'm just going to talk about the playoff bracket, talk about my predictions and everyone else's predictions from the podcast. So let's go ahead and hop into it. Number 1 still is Palmer Ridge. Number 2 is Erie. Number 3, Montrose. Number 4, Broomfield. Number 5, Heritage. 6, Mesa Ridge. 7, Dakota Ridge. 8, Ponderosa. 9 is Golden. 10, Pueblo West. 11, Fruita Monument. 12, Thomas Jefferson. 13 is Windsor. 14 is Loveland, 15 Vista Ridge, 16 Rampart, 17 Denver South, 18 Grand Junction Central, 19 Longmont, 20 Monarch, 21 Falcon, 22 Bear Creek, 23 Stanley Lake, and as of right now at 24 is Centaurus here. Things to remember for this. So the league champions have to make it. So Centaurus has to make it no matter what. They're currently sitting at 24, so it's nice and clean. But you just got to remember that league champions got to make the playoffs. So there you go there. Now, with that being said, let's talk about some of the important games here. To start off, number 17, Denver South will play number 12, Thomas Jefferson. By the way, it's Sunday, October 22nd when I'm recording this. If Max Preps updates again, then obviously this will be different, but it just said it updated today, so I don't think that'll happen. But anyways, hopping into this one here, Denver South, they will go ahead and play Thomas Jefferson here. That'll obviously just affect who is seated where, but still important regardless. Moving on here, number 8 Ponderosa will go ahead and play number 22 Bear Creek. Ponderosa is for sure going to make the playoffs. Bear Creek will probably make the playoffs, but sitting at 22, you don't want to lose by too much if you do. And if you win, that will definitely secure your spot there. So we'll see how that one goes. Moving on, we have number 10 Pueblo West versus number 3 Montrose. This one will be in Pueblo. And so this will be an interesting one for sure. If Pueblo West can take down Montrose, obviously that'll shoot them up and that'll shake up the first round buys here. So we'll just have to see what happens. Now if Montrose plays West close or something like that, they could definitely drop out. We'll just have to see there, as Broomfield and Heritage are playing each other and things could get interesting there, but we will have to see what happens. Speaking of that game, number 5 Heritage versus number 4 Broomfield. this is obviously really important because whoever wins it will go ahead and for sure get a first round bye here, which will absolutely be huge. So we'll see what happens there. Moving on, we have number 15 Vista Ridge versus number 1 Palmer Ridge. We'll have to see how healthy Zayden Stevens is, because if he's not, then this is definitely a Palmer Ridge win. Even if he's in there, it's going to be an uphill battle for them. Obviously, Palmer Ridge, they want to hold on to that number 1 seed spot, so this will be important regardless. Moving on here, we have number 19 Longmont facing off with number 14 Loveland. That's just for seeding purposes. Number 21, though, Falcon, will go ahead and play number 6 Mesa Ridge. Falcon is probably for sure going to make the playoffs, but sitting at 21, you never know, so you want to play them as close as possible, if not win it. Then we got number 7 Dakota Ridge facing off with number 23 Stanley Lake. Very similar position, pretty much the same position as Mesa Ridge versus Falcon, so there you go there. Then we have number 25 Vista Peak going ahead and playing number 27 Far Northeast. For Vista Peak, they have to win this game to make the playoffs, plain and simple. Now, for them to make it, they're going to need some help. Obviously, they're going to definitely need some help. They're going to need one team to fall out of the top 24. And so there you go then. But Vista Peak, they have to win here to go to the playoffs. So we'll see there. For Far Northeast, if there's any chance for them to make it, which I don't think there is, they definitely have to win here as well. Then finally, we have number 13 Windsor versus number 18 Grand Junction Central. Obviously, that's just going to affect seeding there. And so we'll see what happens. A lot of games here that's going to affect the playoff picture. You could see a lot of movement from the teams kind of in the middle there, from 10 to 20 potentially. So we'll see what happens. That'll affect matchups and maybe some teams, potentially being a dark horse and having some favorable matchups in the playoffs. That will definitely be important. And then obviously inside that top 10, that's going to affect how those games go with those top 10 teams will affect who will have first round buys and home field advantage and all that stuff. So a huge week ahead here as we approach the last week of the regular season game. So we will see how it all unfolds, and I will talk to y'all next week.
Obviously, you want a trainer who can make you stronger and faster with the work you put in, but what about a trainer who can help you rehab and recover like the pros? Look no further than Junkyard Training, that not only offers specific strength and speed training, but also offers a plethora of recovery and rehab techniques like cryo, cupping, recovery boots, and so much more. Learn more today by visiting junkyardtraining.net or call 303-521-7594. Once again, visit junkyardtraining.net or call 303-521-7594 and get started today. Hey y'all, we got some more 5A action for you between Cherry Creek and Arapahoe. Coming into this game, it was the number 4 squad in the state versus the number 1 squad in the state. Cherry Creek hosting this game at the Stetler Bowl, taking place Friday, October 20th. So let's go ahead and jump right into it here. Arapahoe starting with the football, and they get a 4-yard run to start, and then a keeper left for 1. Now this does set up third down, but they call a swing pass left to number 13, who does pick up the first down. Now they hurry up onto the football here and call a run right, and then a run left, reverse right to 14 that sets up 3rd and 5. Now on the play action, quarterback Moynihan does find number 17 Andrew Smart for a first down. Now they call a hurry up, and it's a cloud of dust for 1-yard gain, and then another quick run for 3 yards. They call a screen left that is quickly swallowed up by number 1 of Cherry Creek. That is Martinez here, Eliseo or Eli Martinez, and Arapahoe lines up to punt. Now Creek, they're going to start from their own 15-yard line and call a handoff up the middle for a gain of 4. And the ball carrier is desperately held onto by Joshua Acker here for Arapahoe to slow down this game. They then toss left to Jordan Heron, who picks up a first down. And then on the next play, Vodka dots up number 19 for Creek here. That is Dawson Johnson. Over the middle for a first down to the 40-yard line. On the next play, they call a handoff left that picks up 6 and another short run that is swallowed up by 3 and 54 on this defensive line for Arapahoe. That is Will Knox and David Moritz. Now, on this next play, they hand off to Heron, who dances and stumbles ahead for a first down despite Arapahoe's efforts here. On the next play, the tailback shrugs off a couple of tackles before finally being brought down 5 yards later by Charlie Eckhart. A quick pass low to 17 sets up 3rd and short. I also took a note here that Brendan Crisp was playing on defensive line for Arapahoe, so very interesting substitution to counter Creek's size up front. They hand off to Heron again here on 3rd down, who powers forward for a narrow first down to the Warrior 33-yard line. On a rollout here, Vodka finds 17 Jaden Irving for an 8-yard gain. And then Heron is handed off the ball next that finds a first down all the way to the 19-yard line. Then on this next play, Vodka drops back and throws an absolute dime to number 89 here, who makes a fantastic catch for the score. And the PAT is good, making it 7-0 with only a minute left in the first quarter. I want to say that's Ty Gesh on the touchdown reception there. But either way, this was a major catch here to pop back ahead. And yeah, no, this was major in a lot of ways just to get that first score. And it kind of seemed like this was going to be another example of them just enforcing their will here. That is Cherry Creek, and being able to drive and kind of do what they want. But Arapahoe down, but definitely not out here. They call an empty motion here, and then a jet left, quarterback keep right for a 3-yard gain. Then on this next play, getting absolutely hammered by T.I., but Mikey Moynihan hangs in there and delivers a deep bomb to Andrew Smart here in one-on-one coverage, who flips the field all the way to the 25-yard line. After that, there's a short run that ends up ending the first quarter, and so Arapahoe is facing the other direction here in the second quarter, and it's a pass down the left sideline to Andrew Smart, who scores. Moynihan, with a roll left, setting his feet and throws just an absolute dot to Smart, who gets past his guy and ties this game up 7-7, just one play into the second quarter. Now Creek here on their own 20-yard line. It is now a tied football game, and the Arapahoe defense has made some adjustments here, and they respond with a Callahan Davis and Dylan Juarez tackle for loss here. They then call a toss left that does pick up 9 and sets up 3rd and inches, and Heron is handed off the ball up the middle, met by a pack of Warriors, but just barely getting the first down. Brady drops back and surveys the field before finding number 6, Lovett, left for a first down almost to midfield. They have another handoff that gains about 8, and then a following handoff that picks up the first down. After an incompletion right and then a short run is stunted by number 77, Crisp, and finished by number 3, Will Knox, there's an incomplete pass left, number 9 on the coverage for Arapahoe, Cade Neerling here, and that is going to set up 4th and 9 on the 34-yard line going in. Creek does bring the offense back out, feeling like it's 4th down territory, but the pass left past the sticks is dropped, and Creek turns over on downs here, giving Arapahoe the ball on their own 34-yard line. Now, after a handoff right picks up a very short gain, and another imposing handoff middle picks up 4, it is 3rd and 2. Moynihan once again pressured here, but throws right, remains calm, and picks up the first down. The next play, out of the gun, Moynihan pumps left, short, but then loads up a nice deep ball to number 8, Charlie Eckhart, who snatches the ankles of the Creek defender and goes all the way for the touchdown here, and giving Arapahoe the lead with 5 minutes and 42 seconds left in the game. Charlie Eckhart, this is a 56-yard touchdown reception here to put Arapahoe ahead. Now, Creek with the ball here. They're going to go ahead and call a toss left to Jordan Heron, who spins, but the ball is popped out by the defense. This forced fumble, I believe, is from Sam Butler, I want to say, and it is recovered by Dylan Juarez of Arapahoe. And so the Warriors now have the ball on the 30-yard line going in. On this next play here, they drop back for a pass, and Mikey here is hit as he releases, but there's not really a receiver in the area, and so they get an intentional grounding call on them with no receiver in the area, and so they lose yards and a down here. I put in my notes that they really want to score here, and if they don't and lose this game, they will look back at this drive in pain. They do call a slant left for 10 yards that makes it 3rd and 15, and then they throw right into triple coverage, and as fate would have it, on 3rd down in triple coverage, number 3, Keon Johnston here gets the interception, and Creek survives with Arapahoe starting in their own territory, or starting in Creek territory. They survive this drive and get out of it with 0 points allowed. Now, Creek, they have the ball on their own 12-yard line and benefit from a pass interference that puts them now on the 26-yard line. They call a run right, but that is met with a big hit after a 5-yard gain. A toss left picks up a first down, but on the very next play, number 8 for Arapahoe gets home on the blitz and sacks Brady, bringing up 2nd and 13. Creek calls a timeout on this play here with 2 minutes and 25 seconds left in the first half. Out of the timeout, they call a pass that gets back to the line of scrimmage. On the next play, Brady shows very nice patience and poise on a pass over the middle to number 6, who picks up a first down. A corner pass left is just incomplete here, so they dial up a reverse left where Max Lovett picks up a few, and now it is 3rd and 5. They hand off left with 2, picking up a first down and getting out of bounds with 25 seconds left on the 39-yard line. Brady drops back with all day, but after realizing no one is open, just runs ahead to about the 35 and out of bounds. Arapahoe takes a timeout here with 15 seconds left to try and game plan for what Creek is going to dial up here. Vodka drops back and keeps himself getting to the 10-yard line, and Creek calls a timeout with literally 1 second left. Now, there is a lot of dismay from the Arapahoe stands, but there is definitely still time left on the clock by the time Brady is down and Creek is signaling for a timeout. You can't always trust the clock on the scoreboard. You got to trust the official's clock here, which there is definitely time. I was literally standing right there. Now, after that timeout from Creek lines up and Arapahoe responds by trying to ice the kicker and calls a timeout. Now, Creek lines back up and Arapahoe uses their last timeout here. So they go back-to-back timeouts trying to ice this kick, and it works. The snap gets messed up, and Creek will go into half without any points on this drive, and Arapahoe maintains a 7-point lead, up 14-7 at half. So, with that in mind, the Arapahoe sideline is absolutely electric. The fans traveled very well. The student section was in full force here, and Arapahoe feeling pretty good with a 7-point lead in Creek's house. And they'd feel even better as Creek has back-to-back stretch plays to start the half. They go all the way to the sideline, setting up 3rd and 6, where they call a quarterback keeper, and that is swallowed up by Arapahoe's very own number 6, Callahan Davis here. And the Bruins send out their punt unit, but after a great stop to start the half here, a 3-and-out, the Arapahoe special teams does not field this punt, and it takes an insane bounce and roll all the way to the 1-yard line, making for a 74-yard punt. So Arapahoe, starting deep in their own territory, have quite the drive to put together to try and get up 2 scores here in the second half. Now they hand off to Carter Neely, who does get 2 yards before being slammed to the ground by number 96. And then they hand off to Trajan Frazier, who picks up a first down to the 12-yard line. Now they pass it right to 8, who gets to the 36-yard line. That is Charlie Eckhart here on the reception. And then hand off to Frazier, who stays on his feet for a nice 9. They're quietly putting together a good drive, but just because of how far back they started, they still are in their own territory when they call a hurry up, slant middle for a first down, and do get to the other side of midfield. They call a timeout here, trying to dial something up here with 7 minutes and 8 seconds in the third quarter, and hand off to Trajan Frazier, who gets a first down to the 32-yard line. Brendan Crisp's helmet does come off somehow in this play, and he misses the next play and is absolutely furious here. Granted, Arapahoe survives and does run for about 5-yard line. For fives, I should say, for a 5-yard gain. Now, on the very next play, number 0 and 40, Jake Howell and Aiden Knapke here respond with aggression of their own and only stop this run for a gain of 2 here. And now it is 4th and 3. Arapahoe lines up to go for it, and Creek responds with a timeout with 4 minutes and 40 seconds left in the third quarter. The pass is targeted for the tight end, but is honestly a bit behind. There was some calamity for a pass interference call, but I think that the pass was just too far behind for the refs to believe in that call entirely. So Creek, once again, surviving a very nice and well put together Arapahoe drive here, starts on their own 24-yard line and call a quick hitch left for 7 yards. Now they run up the middle for a first down, and then they pass out to Irving, who picks up 8. Another handoff after that picks up another first down, and Vodka after that keeps left and patiently picks up 6. And just like that, Creek is on the 38-yard line going in. They then call a double pass where they pass it right to number 9, who is the junior Jeremiah Inman Jr., as it turns out, and then passes that up to number 18, Tyson Mack here, Mock, who picks up a first down and puts the Bruins inside the 10-yard line. Now, Creek here, they do commit a false start penalty, and then they will have to start their first and goal drive from the 12-yard line. The Arapahoe defense is not fooled with the misdirection, and 8 here for Arapahoe gets a very physical stop. That is Charlie Eckhart, by the way. Then they call a jet sweep left to Heron, who keeps getting stretched all the way out and puts Creek on the 8-yard line. On third down, they call a fade left that is not quite brought in, and on fourth down, they attempt a field goal, which is good, but it's still the Warriors leading 14-10 with under a minute in the third quarter. The Warriors will start their drive on the 20-yard line, and after a handoff picks up 6 and a play-action bullet to Andrew Smart picks up a first down, that will end the third quarter. And it's the fourth quarter, Arapahoe with the ball up 14-10 and starting off the fourth quarter with a 5-yard run. They then try and go underneath to 33, but that is swallowed up on the line. And on 3rd and 5, Mikey rolls out right and can't quite get it to his receiver. I thought while he was rolling out that maybe he should have tucked and run, but regardless, it is an incomplete pass, and they will punt here on 4th and 5. Now the Bruins here will start on their own 32-yard line and do a handoff right that picks up 5 yards before Jordan Heron rips off a huge run, running all the way inside of the Arapahoe 10-yard line. Creek here, they're going to take a timeout and make sure that they make the most out of this red zone trip here with 9 minutes and 13 seconds in the fourth quarter. They call a quarterback power right that picks up 4 yards, and now, just like that, they're inside the 5-yard line. But Arapahoe, with their own grit here, gets a big tackle from David Moritz here to slow this down and grind for a stop. On the next play, number 77, Brendan Crisp is subbed in, and they slow down a run that sets up 3rd and inches. Now, Creek, they call a QB sneak here, and Will Knox actually makes a great play meeting Vodka right at the line here, but Vodka keeps his legs chugging, and Creek with some extra oomph pushes Vodka in for the score, and now Cherry Creek has regained the lead for the first time since the first quarter, now here in the fourth quarter here. Arapahoe, they come out and they call a pitch left to Eckhart, who battles through contact and gets a first down. Big 80 for Creek on the very next play here. Keegan Perea does battle in the scrum and keeps the run to only a 1-yard gain. Then on the very next play, T.I. is in on the stop at the line of scrimmage and forces 3rd and 9. And number 1, Eli Martinez here, or Eliseo, forces a pass breakup, and it's time for Arapahoe to punt once again. Now, Creek, this is right where they want to be here with the ball, with just around 4 or 5 minutes left in the game here, and handing off the ball here to number 7, who goes up the middle here, Jaden Fox, picking up a gain of 6. Fox gets the handoff again, this time for a first down all the way to the 47-yard line, and this is starting to feel like a boa constrictor here, trying to wrap up this game. Another run gets the Bruins past midfield, and Arapahoe, they make some defensive lineman substitutions to get bigger, and that works to slow a run down for a short gain, but it would still be enough for a first down. After a false start, Creek, they call their final timeout with 3 minutes and 25 seconds left here. Kind of odd, but they're very confident in this drive, and they do exactly that, calling a trick play where Jordan Herron throws downfield here to number 6 for a first down all the way to the 13-yard line. This was a great timeout, getting ready for this trick play here and succeeding on it. Arapahoe obviously keying in on Jordan Herron, who would finish with over 200 yards and a score in this game. But I may be spoiling just a little bit here because Arapahoe responds with a timeout on their own after a 6-yard run with 3 minutes and 3 seconds left. Now, Creek, they shift to strong eye and handoff right for a first down all the way to the 1-yard line. And then out of gun, handoff right to Jordan Herron, who scoots into the end zone and salutes to make this a 2-score game with 2 minutes and 21 seconds left, which may be the fatal blow. And if that isn't, Arapahoe on their very first play would throw a pass rolling right, and that would be intercepted by number 11, Luke Owen here, and Creek would get a couple of runs and roll out pass right to Irving for a first down, and that leads to Cherry Creek in victory formation. Cherry Creek beating Arapahoe on their own turf, 24-14, after shutting out Arapahoe in the second half, surviving some very big drives, honestly. And that's what it came down to, is both these teams just who is going to survive the other one here. And not to say that Arapahoe doesn't get some great plays here. They obviously recover a fumble that puts them in great position. But as I said, they really needed to score on that drive to capitalize off of that. Their special teams not feeling the punt and having to start their own drive from the 1-yard line instead of, like the 30, because then, you do the math there and they probably end up in the end zone on that. So it's just little mistakes here by Arapahoe, and it's definitely, I'd say that playing Creek definitely wears you out. Creek running the ball 45 times, definitely staying true to their game plan coming into it. And then Brady Vodka just taking what the defense gives them, and their other pass plays being trick plays. They have a double pass with Inman. They have a toss pass with Jordan Herron. And, it's crazy that those 1-for-1 plays for 30 yards, that they barely have a higher QBR than Brady Vodka. I thought Mikey looked fantastic in the second half, but I think that the pressure started to get to him in the he looked great in the first half. I think the pressure starts to get to him in the second half just because Creek was getting a lot of hits on him. They were getting sacks, they were getting hurries, they were getting pressures, and that does add up over time. And the Arapahoe run game just wasn't quite there that night. Trajan Frazier, the leading rusher, with 54 rushing yards on 11 carries. But, the air game was working very strong, but Creek does adapt. They do swap out a cornerback that was kind of getting killed out there in the first half. They swap him out and, after making some adjustments, make it a lot harder and leave those big gains few and far between for the Arapahoe offense. But like I said, Arapahoe benefits from this game. They end up skyrocketing to number 2, surprisingly enough, and Cherry Creek remains at 1. Now I'm going to pass it over to Gino, who has some other 5A action from Friday night, before I go over the rest of 5A action and the playoff implications from their games.
What is going on, everybody? Gino here with the Playmakers Corner podcast, and we are back here with a recap of a late season matchup between two top teams in 5A, the Chatfield Chargers and the visiting Ralston Valley Mustangs. Both of these squads possess high-powered offenses and playmakers littering the field on both sides. Chatfield came into this game red hot off 5 straight wins, with none of them being particularly close. They haven't had a super tough schedule, though, with this game against Ralston Valley being their first real test since their game against Cherry Creek earlier in the season. Chatfield has beat teams with a potent passing attack, and with their QB Jake Jones's legs, he is a very good athlete and an all-around good QB. Ralston Valley, on the other hand, had been playing tough teams every week, it seems like, with only 2 of their games this year being against non-playoff teams. They've been in shootouts and slugfests all year, so they were definitely battle-tested coming into this game against Chatfield. This game had a lot of excitement from the very beginning, so let's not waste any more time and see how this Jeffco League matchup went. Starting off here in the first quarter, Ralston Valley would start with the ball here at their own 20-yard line after a touchback. Their drive started with a run to number 26, Brady Weldon, but he is stopped at the line of scrimmage. Next play, the QB number 5, Logan Madden, hits number 2, Jackson Hansen on a screen for his first catch of the day, and he takes that for a first down to the Ralston 30-yard line. Next play, another Weldon run is stopped for a 1-yard gain by number 47, Avery DeWeese, and number 33, Logan Cundred. After an incomplete pass, it's 3rd and long now. Madden takes the snap, scans, looks to his left, he lets go, and he finds number 10, Wyatt Morwood, who takes it all the way down the sideline as the safety flies by to try and pick it off, and Morwood takes that one for a 69-yard Ralston Valley touchdown. Very risky pass there from Logan Madden, but it pays off big time here on 3rd down as Ralston is now up 7-0 after number 98, Cole Pfeiffer, nailed the PAT. Chatfield started their drive at the 20-yard line after a touchback. They started their drive off here with a handoff to number 23, Corey Ball, for 3 yards. On the next play, their QB, number 13, Jake Jones, hits his favorite target, number 5, Micah Lumpkin, on a go route down the sideline for a beautiful pass and big gain to put Chatfield at the Ralston Valley 46-yard line. On the very next play after that, those two would connect again with Jones faking the handoff to Ball. He rolls to his right and hits a wide open Michael Lumpkin, who takes it all the way for a Chatfield touchdown. Chatfield takes full advantage of the cover 0 look Ralston was giving, and they make it 7-7 after number 4 Andrew Astone hits the PAT. Still with 9:21 to go here in the first quarter. Number 15 Jack Wagner would take the kick return to the Ralston 38, but a false start flag on the first snap made it 1st and 15 from the Ralston 33. The Mustangs started off their drive with number 26 Brady Weldon taking a check down pass for a 10-yard gain to make it 2nd and 15. Another screen pass to a receiver on the next play made it 3rd and 3, and then Logan Madden takes a keeper for a first down to the Chatfield 48-yard line. Madden handed it off to Brady Weldon on first down for 5 yards, and followed that up with a screen pass to number 2, Jackson Hansen, who makes some nice cuts and takes that one for a first down to the Chatfield 32. On the next set of plays, Weldon took a first down run for 7 yards, and that was followed by an incomplete pass to make it 3rd and 3. On 3rd down, Madden takes the snap and fires it to Jackson Hansen, and Hansen takes that one in for the touchdown. It's 14-7 Ralston Valley after the Cole Pfeiffer PAT. Chatfield started with the ball at their own 19 after a return from number 0, Goose Shelp. Chatfield got up to 3rd and 1 on their next set of plays after a run and a short pass, but got hit with a false start to make it 3rd and 6. On 3rd down, Jake Jones started to show off his dual threat ability as he is unable to find a receiver, so he just takes it himself for a first down to the Chatfield 34-yard line. Jones then hit number 9, Charles Yannette, for a first down at the Chatfield 49-yard line. False start on the following snap made it 1st and 15 from the Chatfield 44. Number 2, Landon Mueller, took the first down run for a nice 11-yard gain, and then Jones found the freshman, number 11, Jaden Zeller, on a quick hitter for a first down with some nice blocking in front of him from Michael Lumpkin to the Ralston 25-yard line. Jake Jones took a designed QB run for a few yards, but a face mask flag on the tackle would make it 1st and goal from the 10-yard line. After an incomplete pass on first down, Jones takes the snap, rolls to his left, and finds an open Jaden Zeller in the end zone to give the freshman his second TD on the year, and that would make it 14-14 after the PAT. Still 2:12 left in the first quarter. Ralston got the ball at the 20 after the touchback. They gave it to Weldon on 2 straight plays to get a first down, and then they gave it to him again to start the next set of plays for a 3-yard gain. Following an incomplete pass over the middle intended for Wyatt Morwood, Logan Madden would find Jackson Hanson on a short pass, and Hanson takes that for a first down to the Ralston 43-yard line. Brady Weldon took the first down run for 3 yards, and that would take us to the end of the first quarter. Ralston would end up punting on this drive after number 28 Hunter Balderson stopped a 3rd down run for a 4-yard loss. Chatfield started with the ball at their own 22 after the punt. Jones ran it on first down for a couple yards and then hit number 8 Colin Moat on an out route for a 6-yard gain to make it 3rd and 2 here. On 3rd down, Jake Jones takes a QB sneak up the middle for a first down to the Chatfield 34-yard line. Following that play, Michael Lumpkin would continue to shine in this first half as Jones rolls right, hits Lumpkin, who makes an amazing catch down the sideline. It's now Chatfield ball at the Ralston 35-yard line after that awesome catch. Those two connect again on the very next play as Jones rolls right and hits Lumpkin, who makes a toe-touching grab for a short gain to make it 2nd and 5. Jones scrambles out of bounds on the next play for a loss of 1 yard. Ralston Valley was getting pressure on Jones all game, constantly forcing him out of the pocket to make his throws, and he was almost never comfortable in the pocket in this one, as you'll soon see here. Speaking of pressure, on 3rd down, Jones drops back to pass, rolls to his left, doesn't find a receiver, so he tucks it and runs this one in untouched for a Chatfield touchdown. They are now up 21-14 with 8:44 left in the half after they take advantage of the punt that their defense forced. Number 15, Jack Wagner on Ralston took the return again, but he is stopped at the 13-yard line by number 62, Caden O'Neill, who makes a big tackle. Brady Weldon started the drive off here with a 6-yard run, and then followed that up with a run for a first down to the Ralston 24-yard line. On first down, number 17, Nate Helms got the sack for a loss of 4. More bad luck for Ralston as Chatfield accepts a holding call on the next play, and that pushes them back even more to make it 2nd and 19 from the Ralston 15-yard line. Ralston made up for that flag, though, as Madden hits Jack Wagner for a 17-yard gain to make it 3rd and 2 now. Brady Weldon would take the 2nd down run would take the next play for a nice gain to the Ralston 42-yard line. They are now rolling here. Weldon wasn't done there, though, as he got another first down run on the very next play to the Chatfield 48-yard line. Number 24, Bryson Diebel, got in on the action here, getting a 9-yard run, and that was followed by a play-action pass complete to number 21, Marshall Strange, for a nice gain to the Chatfield 22. Really nice play design on that one from Ralston. After a couple of plays for a few yards, there's an injury timeout with 3:39 left in the half. Coming out of the injury timeout, Weldon took a run to the 8-yard line to make it 1st and goal for Ralston Valley. Madden ran out of bounds on first down for a 2-yard gain, and that was followed by a run to Weldon that is stopped by number 28, Hunter Balderson, for no gain. On 3rd down, Madden takes the snap, rolls right, and finds his favorite target, Jackson Hanson, for Hanson's 2nd TD of the half. It's 21-21 now, deep in the first half after the PAT. Goose Shelp nearly broke free on the return for Chatfield, but he is stopped at the 34-yard line by Ralston's last line of defense. Chatfield started this drive with 1:16 left in the half, so let's see what happened. After an incomplete deep ball, Jake Jones rolls to his right and hits a receiver for a first down, still in their own territory. I missed that next play, but on the play after that, Jake Jones scrambles his way for a nice gain and a Chatfield first down at the Ralston 33-yard line. Ralston called a timeout following that play, under a minute to go in this one. An incomplete pass on first down following the timeout was followed by Brady Weldon batting down a pass out of Jake Jones's hands to make it 3rd and long. They followed that up with an incomplete pass on third. And then on fourth down, they would call timeout with 20 seconds left to play in the half to decide if they want to go for it or try the long field goal from the 33-yard line. They decide to go for it here as Jones takes the snap and tries to hit a jumping Michael Lumpkin in the back of the end zone, but the ball is overthrown to force a turnover on downs. Ralston kneeled the ball out to take us to the end of the first half. This game is all knotted up at 21 with both sides playing very well so far. There hasn't been much defense in this one so far, but let's go ahead and jump into the second half to see if that changes at all. Chatfield will get the ball at the 20 to start the second half after the touchback. Corey Ball got the ball to start the drive, and he got 8 yards on the run. They gave it to him again on second down, and he gets the first down up the middle to the Chatfield 31-yard line. It was Ball again on first down for a few yards, and then on second down, Jake Jones scrambled for about 10 seconds, dodging multiple sacks along the way. Eventually, he just had to throw it away. So third down now. And on third, Jones is under pressure yet again as he hits Michael Lumpkin throwing on the run for a first down to the Chatfield 48-yard line. Number 72, Grayson Clark, stopped a ball run for 2 yards on first down. And then a couple of plays later, Jones would scan for a while and eventually find a crossing Michael Lumpkin for a first down at the Ralston 38-yard line. Ball took the first down snap for 2 yards, and then Jake Jones scrambled for a first down on the next play to the Ralston 25-yard line. Number 75, Jake Huffman, made a big stop on the run on first down, and then on second down, Jones drops back to pass, looks to his right, finds number 7, Drew Rallman in the flats, lets go, and it is picked off by Brady Weldon as he cuts his way across the field and just barely misses getting a pick six as he is stopped at the 1-yard line. Absolute gut punch for Chatfield as they were definitely driving there, but they instead have to watch Ralston start their drive at the 1-yard line. Ralston, of course, wasted no time as they handed it off to Bryson Diebel, who takes it up the middle for a touchdown. Ralston is now back up here in this one, 28-21, with 6:06 to go in the third quarter. Chatfield started their drive at their own 20 after the touchback. A holding call on first down made it 1st and 20 on their own 10-yard line. Jones hits Lumpkin for 5 yards on first down. Then on second down, number 58, Tyrese Johnson, and number 72, Grayson Clark, made a big stop on a run after a few yards. On third down, Tyrese Johnson once again makes a huge play as he gets into the backfield and swats down a Jake Jones pass to force a 3-and-out. A weak punt gave Ralston the ball at their own 40-yard line. This Ralston drive didn't start out great with an incomplete pass on first and a holding call followed by another incomplete pass that was nearly picked on third down, and that made it 3rd and 15. On third down, Madden drops back to pass, rolls to his left, looks deep, throws it deep as he's rolling to his left, and it is caught by number 4, Anthony Bonallo, for a huge gain deep into Chatfield territory. That was just an unreal throw there from Madden to extend this drive in a close game. It is Ralston Valley's ball at the 19-yard line. From there, they just gave it to Brady Weldon, who would eventually take it in for his first TD of the game. Ralston Valley up 35-21 with 25 seconds left in the third quarter. Number 1, Dagan Myers, took the return to the Chatfield 33-yard line, and that's where they would start this drive. After a run to Corey Ball for 4 yards, that would take us to the end of the third quarter. Heading into the fourth quarter now, Tyrese Johnson and number 11, George Patterson, stopped a QB run for 2 yards. And then on third down, Jake Jones avoids a sack and finds number 7, Drew Rallman, over the middle for a first down at the Chatfield 48. Those two connected again on the next play as Jones flicks a beautiful pass along the sideline to Rallman for a first down at the Ralston Valley 28-yard line. Tyrese Johnson, George Patterson, and Brady Weldon ganged up to stop a run at the line of scrimmage on first down, and then Jones found number 9, Charles Yannette, for an 8-yard gain. On third and short, Chatfield tried an option run with Jones trying to get around the edge, but George Patterson secured the edge and made a huge stop to make it 4th and 2. On 4th down, Chatfield opts to go for it again. Jones takes the snap, is forced to his right, throws on the run to Michael Lumpkin in the end zone, but it is overthrown, and that would force a turnover on downs. Ralston would go 3 and out on their next drive. Their punt, though, was tipped by number 12, Rick Rady, on Chatfield, or Roddy, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, and Chatfield would start with great field position at the Ralston 38 to start their drive after that tipped punt. Jake Jones wasted no time on this drive as he would run this one all the way to the 4-yard line on the first snap. From there, they give it to Corey Ball in the next play, and he runs it up the middle for a touchdown. Chatfield finally cut into this Ralston Valley lead. That makes it 35-28 after the PAT with 6:44 left in the game. Chatfield now absolutely needs a quick stop to give them enough time to score on the next drive to try and tie this game. Unfortunately for Chatfield, basically all hope would be lost as Jackson Hansen once again continued to have an amazing game. He takes the return all the way to the Chatfield 41-yard line. From there, Ralston would feed Brady Weldon 6+ times before he eventually punches it in for the touchdown to give Ralston a 42-28 lead with 2:45 left in the game. So that's 2 touchdowns and that big interception in the second half for Weldon. He was truly the catalyst behind Ralston and just what they did on both sides in the second half. Chatfield tried to answer on their next drive after the touchback, starting off with a first down pass to Michael Lumpkin to the 41-yard line, Chatfield 41-yard line, after Jones was forced to scramble. And then they followed that up with another first down pass with Jones hitting Colin Moat this time to the Ralston 49. After a few incomplete passes on 4th down, Jones takes the snap, tries to find someone deep, but he is sacked by Brady Weldon to force a turnover on downs. And that play would end this game as Ralston kneels it out and Brady Weldon puts a cap to his unbelievable second half performance. Ralston Valley comes out on top in this one on the road by a score of 42-28. So some final thoughts here for both sides, starting off with Chatfield here. I thought Chatfield came out looking really good in the first half offensively. That Jake Jones to Micah Lumpkin connection is as good as any QB wide receiver duo in the state. It was quite obvious how important Lumpkin is to this Chatfield game plan and their overall success as a team. Every time Jones would roll out of the pocket, it felt like Lumpkin was always there for him as a target to extend plays. Defensively, they couldn't stop Brady Weldon to save their lives in the second half as he continued to move the sticks and help set up Logan Madden's passes. Weldon is a great back, but if he can do what he did to this Chatfield defense, then I am very concerned for what guys like Matthias Price, Jaden Lawrence, what those kinds of guys would do to this defense. We saw all game, and especially in the second half, how much Jones was getting pressured and forced out of the pocket, as it felt like over half of his throws were on the run trying to avoid a sack. This is not a recipe for success at this level, as there is only so much improvising that Jones can do before bigger and better defenses are able to completely shut down that passing attack. Not that Ralston Valley's defense isn't big and great, but their D-line also plays on the offensive line. So all I'm saying here is that a more well-rested defense would be able to pick apart this Chatfield offensive scheme. We saw in the second half that they can't rely on their run game either when the pass game is struggling. I would like a lot more run game mixed into their game plan in the first half, because if they don't, then we'll see more teams like Ralston Valley not worry about the run game at all and just focus on getting pressure and sacks. They need to look at how Ralston Valley uses the run game to set up their pass game and follow suit, because otherwise they are going to have a hard time against top teams in the state. Next week at Littleton West is going to be another difficult test, as Littleton West is undefeated on the year, but that is still a winnable game for Chatfield, so keep your eyes on that game next Friday. Some final thoughts here for Ralston Valley. It was an awesome win for Ralston Valley. We saw in this game exactly why they are so tough to beat with their highly productive run game combined with Logan Madden's clutch and efficient play. Brady Weldon's second half could have very well won them the game too, putting up 2 TDs, an 80-yard game-saving interception return, and a game-ending sack on the last drive of the game. This Ralston Valley team is just straight up littered with two-way players, guys like Tyrese Johnson that are holding down the line on offense and getting drive-ending tackles on the other side of the ball are a massive reason why Ralston is able to win these big games. I also want to shout out Jackson Hanson, who was Logan Madden's number 1 target in this game. He finished with 2 TDs, both in the first half, and 66 yards on 6 receptions. And then that big kick return as well to help seal the win. His first half was a huge reason why Ralston was able to keep up with Chatfield's quick scoring. Speaking of Logan Madden, awesome game from him as he was making clutch throws on third down all game and had some elite throws to go with it. He finished with 3 TDs all in the first half as they were really leaning on that pass game to stay in the game in that first half, but he was making clutch throws all game, even into the second half. I also want to shout out the defensive line, George Patterson, Ty Johnson, Jack Moran, Jake Huffman, Grayson Clark, and anyone I'm forgetting for getting pressure on Jake Jones all game. That was definitely a big reason why they won. They will finish the year here with a game against Arvada West, and then it will be time for playoffs. Ralston is going to be a very fun team to watch out for in playoffs as they look to bring home some hardware this year. And that about does it in this recap. This is Gino checking out, and I will pass this mic off to Cody, who's got that 5A recap for y'all. Peace out.
Thank you, Gino, for that recap on what sounded like a super exciting game here. And that makes me excited to go over the rest of the action here in 5A. So, to start us off here on Thursday, Leland Feshaz throws 15 to 22 for 300 yards and 4 scores in the Doherty Spartans' 49 to 12 win over North Glen. Receivers Solomon Latimer and Logan Hutchin were both cooking with 167 yards on 9 receptions and 115 yards on 3 receptions, respectively, and a pair of scores. Hutchin also notching 2 sacks on defense for Doherty in this W. Brian Valdez for Doherty notched 3 rushing scores and over 100 yards on 16 carries. And then for North Glen, junior back Josiah Stevenson was the biggest sign of life with an 80-yard rushing touchdown and 153 yards total on the night. Doherty went from 28 to 27, but still need a lot of help to squeeze in at the 24 seed at best. Littleton West cruises to a 48-0 win over Lakewood, but after this win, they dropped to number 4, which does have to be frustrating since the team that they beat with more losses moved ahead of them. So it'll be interesting to see how much their last regular season game against Chatfield could help raise them maybe. In a wild 6 total turnover game, Pine Creek survives Douglas County 33-27 here with a couple of potential Playmaker of the Week candidates here. Jonathan Core running 229 yards with 27 carries and finding the end zone 4 times for Pine Creek here, helping them in the best way possible try and find this win. The Eagles defense was led by Caleb Petrie here and Jared Ibarra, 13 and 11 tackles, who did a great job combined with Mason Miller to keep the Huskies under 3 yards per carry and then give the passing game fits with 2 Ramon Pacheco interceptions, including a pick 6 on top of his 5 tackles and 1 TFL here to help fly home a W for Pine Creek. Tate Peterson and Alex Abramovich here both caught TD passes for Douglas County, and the special teams and defense for the Huskies was doing their fair share with a Cameron Caillou fumble recovery for a touchdown, and Lucas Mabry kicking 2 of 2 on field goal attempts and 3 of 3 on PATs, keeping this game somewhat close throughout the night. This narrow win over number 22 Douglas County was kind of punishing for the Eagles, who dropped to 3rd in the seeding index, which, to the same point I just made about the Littleton West game, I honestly do not agree with, but it is what it is, and all they can try and do is finish 9-1 to reclaim that number 2 spot. Douglas County essentially stamped their ticket to the playoffs with their win over Fountain Fort Carson, and then this close game over Pine Creek. They'll be a tough round 1 draw for basically anyone. Number 23 Brighton remains clinging to playoff chances with a 60 to 30 win, over Rangeview, but have very little margin for error at 23. And with those other teams right behind them, it is going to be tough for the Bulldogs here, and they must finish. They are in charge of their own destiny here. They win, they're in. They lose, they're most likely out. Mountain Vista here beats Highlands Ranch 48-8. Austin Madreski, nothing new here, 19 of 23 for 254 yards, throwing more touchdowns than he did in completions, and even got freshman QB Marquise Reese in, going 2 of 4 for 13 yards. Sean Conway caught 3 scores on 6 receptions for 60 yards, and CJ Reese had one of his best performances all season with 7 receptions for 80 yards and a score. You also got to look at senior Austin Ayotte here, who notched 2 sacks, 2 TFLs, and a forced fumble, and it all comes down to Week 10's showdown against number 8 Valor Christian for league here. Eagle Crest moves from number 13 to number 12 and beats Smoky Hill 55-14. Logan Ryan continues to be a problem with a 7-reception, 124-yard stat line and a score, but he was one of 2 Raptors, with Coda Becker also eclipsing the 100-yard mark as well. The Raptors will have one more chance to move up with a Thursday night tilt against number 2 Arapahoe. Regis takes Legends 7 seed from them in a 27-10 victory. The Raider defense just swallowing up the run, holding the Titans to under 30 total rushing yards and shutting them out entirely in the second half. The Titans defense was also stingy themselves, with Nate Sandy notching 3 tackles for loss out of his 17 total, and Eli Frakes having 11 of his own, but Albert Medina persevered for 59 yards and a score. The Titans dropped to 9 and need to not only beat Douglas County, but probably need either Regis or Valor to lose, and even then, RPI may not be kind to them, just because Valor is facing the number 6 team in the state, and Regis is facing a top 15 team. If Regis takes care of business against number 15 Fountain Fort Carson, then they'll have nothing to worry about, but if they lose, they may not be in charge of how the cookie crumbles with the bye and have to play in the first round. Overland, clinging to playoff hopes at the number 25 spot, beats Mountain Range 41-10, but, if they beat Doherty, they might just get enough help to sneak into the postseason here. Rocky Mountain beats Boulder 35-10, and then speaking of big wins here, Rock Canyon put themselves in an awesome spot to host a postseason game with a defensive struggle win over Castleview. The Jags' stingy defense only allowed 122 all-purpose yards all night and kept everything in front of them. The SaberCats turned in an awesome defensive performance themselves, with Aaron Perry's 11 tackles and 4 TFLs. Jacob McConnell had 3 TFLs as well, as did Jordan Ochoa with 2 TFLs as well here. But Rock Canyon, like I said, they get the one victory here or the one touchdown, I should say, in this game between them and Castleview for the win here. Not sure who scored that touchdown here in the second quarter, but that's all that was needed for this narrow win here, and they sneak up to number 16, and Castleview still remains at 10, no matter if they win or lose, which is a little interesting. But I digress. Back to the game that I recapped. Go ahead and listen to the full recap just a couple segments ago, but Cherry Creek scores 17 unanswered second half points to come back and beat Arapahoe. Keon Johnston and Luke Owen had 2 clutch interceptions. Owen to end the game, Keon to stop a drive that started in their own territory. And Creek sticks to the ground game with Heron's 203 yards and a score, with Brady Vodka keeping the offense balanced and efficient 11 of 15 for 145 yards, scoring both through the air and the ground. The loss actually advances Arapahoe to the 2nd seed, much to the dismay of other teams around the state, but it will be interesting to see if their Week 10 opponent drops them for strength of schedule, even if they do win. Creek remains at 1 and might even remain there, even if Grandview pulls off an absurd upset, more absurd than even last season. Valor Christian here reaches the bye threshold after a 41-8 win over Thunder Ridge and some help in front of them. Asher Weiner went 10 of 12 for 205 yards through the air and then had 6 rushes for 40 yards and a score for a potential Playmaker of the Week bid, with those 3 passing touchdowns also coming through the air as well. Leading in carries was Gabe Sawchuk, 13 carries, 56 yards, and a score. And then Blake Kershke had a carry for 52 yards and a score for Valor as well. For the Grizz, they are at the most vulnerable spot with the 24 seed in a large game looming against Rock Canyon in Week 10. If they win, they're definitely in, but if they lose, we will have to see who Chassa will choose for that 24 seed. Valor, like I mentioned, got to the 8th seed, but their league championship will be against 8-1 Mountain Vista at home in Week 10, which is must-watch football to see who the league champ is and to see if Valor plays close enough to still warrant a bye potentially as a 500 football team. Ralston Valley, as Gino alluded to, stamps their bye with an explosive third quarter, pulling away from Chatfield here. Brady Weldon was firing on all cylinders and was all reliable on both sides of the football, with a whopping 30 carries for 130 yards, 2 scores, but more importantly, an 80-yard pick that sets them up on the 1-yard line and a sack that forces a turnover on downs. Logan Madden did his thing, 11 of 16, 229 yards, 3 scores, with 2 of those going to Jackson Hanson on some dimes. On the other side, Jake Jones threw for almost 300 yards and ran for over 100 with 2 passing and 1 rushing score, but his interception looms large in this loss here. It'll also be interesting to see how the Chargers charge ahead, as Micah Lumpkin is an engine that this team will unfortunately miss big time in the postseason, thanks to some dumb, selfish adults here. But shout out to Lumpkin here with a show-stopping 8-reception, 159-yard game here. Ralston Valley should all be stamped at the number 5 spot with a game only against A West, and Chatfield faces their highest seed opponent, but I don't even know if a win would be enough to justify a top 8 seed, so they feel pretty squarely like a first-round home opponent. Denver East gets a slight bump to 13 following a 52-point win over Westminster. Declan McDonald bounces back with a 9 of 17, 177-yard, 3-touchdown to 1 interception game. Sean Campbell and Elijah West both get over 100 yards and combine for 3 scores, but West also leads the team with 110 receiving yards and a score there. The Angel defense bottles Mason Kiewit up to just a rushing score and punishes this offense with 6 turnovers. Mullen remains at number 20 with a win over Prairie View. Guy I'm going to talk about this game was Dante DePue here, or DePuch, who had 24 carries for 208 yards and a score. The Mustangs, trying to strengthen that run game prior to the postseason and be ready to be balanced, has them as a tough first round out for whoever will play them. Now, major upset alert here for Cherokee Trail, who scores 9 unanswered points in the final frame to beat number 7 Grandview 23-21. Noah Collins being a workhorse here, 26 carries for 122 yards and I think 2 rushing touchdowns. Zarka, 13 of 20, 148 yards with a touchdown through the air, as well as a team-high 18 carries for 87 yards and a rushing touchdown, but also throwing an interception. On the other side, Tyson Smith does just enough, going 16 of 31 for 200 yards, but in a monumental moment, Peyton Castro rises with an 8-reception, 109-yard game to beat Grandview for the first time in his 4 years as a Cougar. And the Wolves, on the flip side, were still stout, even with Noah Collins' solid performance. Mason Pryor had 3 TFLs, 3 players had 2, and 5 more had 1 for 14 total TFLs. But they bend way too much in the final minutes of the game and allow the Cougars to drive down and kick a field goal with under a minute left for the upset of the week, plummeting Grandview down to number 11, who would now need a ton of help and a win against undefeated Cherry Creek for the second year in a row to have any chance at a bye. With the big upset, Cherokee Trail is still number 19, and I don't think that they drop below 20 with that win, regardless of how Week 10 goes. Now, the Impalas of Pooter force 4 turnovers and narrowly defeat Fort Collins 17-10. Now, Arvada West, the Wildcats ride a hot hand, Adrian Samala here, with 12 carries for 181 yards and 3 scores in their 41-0 win over Pomona that stamps them as a playoff team and seemingly entrenched in the 21 seed. Barring a wild upset over number 5, Ralston Valley, West probably stays right here, and that will definitively end the Pomona playoff talks, as they just now want to avoid going 0-10 next week. Fountain Fort Carson beat Chaparral 35-6. It feels like they slid for their win all the way to 15, even with Price and Kites both running like crazy with 263 and 109 yards and a trio of scores between the duo. The Trojans' only chance to get a bye would be beating Regis Jesuit at home, and that'll give us a great read on which Fountain Fort Carson is heading into the postseason. Fairview beats Fossil Ridge 55-28. Beckham crits at 25 of 48 for 358 yards and 5 touchdowns to no picks. Jordan Rochelle and Jace Hines both catch a pair of scores, but Hines leads the team in receiving yards with 198 total, but Rochelle breaks the plane by running the football later. Now, playoff-wise, unless Rock Canyon loses to Thunder Ridge, Fairview will probably have to play their opening playoff game on the road, unless seeding hammers FFC even more for a loss, but I seriously doubt it. Fossil Ridge needs more than just a win next week, with the teams in front of them in Overland, Thunder Ridge, or Brighton being the most vulnerable in losing a spot and needing one of those teams, two of those teams actually, to lose for them to return to the playoffs 2 years in a row. Or 3 years maybe, not sure. Legacy thumps Horizon 55-28. Devin Kercheval here continues his role with a 3-touchdown passing performance. The running game stays dangerous with Tyler Anderson going for 209 yards and a pair of scores, and Tyler Madden rushes for 2 and receives 2 in this big win here. That is the 5A recap here. And before I go, I'll go ahead and just sprint through the CHSAA seating index here for 5A. 1 Cherry Creek, 2 Arapahoe, 3 Pine Creek, 4 Littleton West, 5 Ralston Valley, 6 Mountain Vista, 7 Regis Jesuit, and 8 Valor Christian. Those right now are our 8 teams here. And next week, I'm just going to do the recap of scores because we will have a different episode for the playoffs themselves. Now, outside of the playoffs, but home teams for the first round are Legend at 9, Castleview 10, Grandview 11, Eagle Crest 12, Denver East 13, Chatfield 14, Fountain Fort Carson 15, and Rock Canyon at 16. Now, the teams that will be on the road for right now is 17 Fairview, 18 Legacy, 19 Cherokee Trail, 20 Mullen, 21 Arvada West, 22 Douglas County, 23 Brighton, and 24 Thunder Ridge. And I think that the teams that could make the playoffs here that aren't completely eliminated would be 25 Overland, 26 Fossil Ridge, and maybe 27 Doherty. And on a very light note, 28 Horizon. But after that, all the other teams, congratulations on, your season. And here's to a lot of these younger teams getting a lot better next year between Smoky Hill, Highlands Ranch, Pomona, Rocky Mountain, Westminster, Fort Collins, Prairie View, Poudre, Chaparral, Mountain Range, Lakewood, North Glen, Rangeview, and Boulder. We're going to stick a finality fork in them and see who out of these 28 teams, what top 24 will make the postseason. Now, we got an ad break here before talking about some of our Playmakers of the Week as well as the Game of the Week Playmaker. So just stay tuned after a word from myself on one of our friends here, the running back trainer, our preferred running back trainer here in the state of Colorado. So do you want to know what the best kept secret in running back training is? It's MadSkillz RB1 Training. Coach Voss is flipping the script and leveling up running back training in Colorado by implementing his proven, nationally recognized system of training. Don't be fooled by the name. Quarterbacks and receivers become fundamentally sound juke artists as well with his training. It's evident the athletes he trains love him. Each progressive training session arms the athlete with a new skill set that prepares them to be shifty, powerful, and elusive. Parents love Coach Voss because with his training, they receive free college recruiting tips, no contracts, and no drama. Message him on Instagram at MadSkillz _RB1 Training or at Coach Cut Creator on Twitter, X, for more information. Off-season runs from January through July, so get in the cut and get some MadSkillz this off-season. And thank you once again for MadSkillz for that bit here. But let's go ahead and talk about another one of our proud sponsors here, and that is Code Red Coaching. Go ahead and get with our guy Cody Rosenthal over there at Code Red Coaching, either through visiting coderedcoaching.com or go ahead and give him a call at 720-979-1914 and go ahead and get set up with your first appointment where the grind to greatness starts with the mind. Be mentally strong and perform like our Playmakers of the Week, brought to you by Code Red Coaching here. So, on the 1A level for Playmakers of the Week, we have a few candidates here. Noah Martin out of Peyton, who had 282 pass yards, 5 passing touchdowns, a rushing touchdown, and 79 rushing yards in a blowout win over Rocky Ford. We also have Logan Botyer out of Lyman, who had an incredible stat line against Wiggins, having over 300 all purpose yards with 270 rush yards, 16 receiving yards, and 20 kick return yards in this game. And rushing for 6, that's right, all 6 of Lyman's touchdowns in this 42-21 win over Wiggins. Austin Collins out of Ray, who had 51 receiving yards, 62 rushing yards, a rushing touchdown, 2 interceptions, and 18 interception return yards in a win over Burlington to definitively end the Wildcat season. And then Chase Reel out of BLA here, 229 rushing yards and a touchdown in a win to end Rise season here. And Gideon has crowned Logan Botyer as your 1A Playmaker of the Week. Now on the 2A level, let's talk about these guys that Gino brought up here, with Cash Alschwager out of Wellington, 138 yards and a touchdown on 16 carries, 9 tackles and 2 interceptions on defense. And this was in a win over Platte Valley to win their league and to remain undefeated here at 8-0. Marcus Schoenberger here out of Woodland Park, 13 of 23 for 281 yards, 6 touchdowns and no interceptions in Woodland Park's big dub over Lamar. Ian Champafy out of Moffat County, who had 156 yards on 23 carries and a 20-yard touchdown pass, while also on defense notching 2 sacks and 5 tackles in a win over Aspen. And Tanner Gray, also of Wellington, with 3 touchdowns and 119 yards on 24 carries. And then defensively, 2 TFLs, a sack, and 5 tackles with that same league championship in mind. And Gino is going to go ahead and choose between 2 Eagles here and give it to Tanner Gray as your Week 9 2A Playmaker of the Week. Now on the 3A level, Coach V had a handful of quarterbacks to choose from here. Ryken Doggard going 15 of 28 for 180 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick, but also 75 rushing yards in a win versus Northfield. 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter helped push the Lions over the Nighthawks here, so the timing and the clutchness being a huge aspect here. Gavin Ishmael, who went 20 of 28 for 339 yards, 4 scores and a pick, while also getting 41 rushing yards in a 1-score win over Denver North to keep the Golden Eagles' playoff hopes alive. Bronco Hartson in that game that him and Gideon attended. Be sure to listen to that segment for the full recap there. But in that game, Bronco goes 13 of 25 for 228 yards, a passing touchdown, and then 39 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown in a 1-point win over Severance. Coach V's Week 9 3A Playmaker of the Week is going to be Gavin Ishmael out of Frederick here, mainly keeping those playoff hopes alive, but also just being one of the best offensive weapons in the entire state here at quarterback and one of the leaders in passing yards. In 4A, once again, this is Coach V here, who has the nominees of Peter Richardson, who had 9 tackles, 6 TFLs, 2.5 sacks in the 35-19 win over Vista Ridge. Mikey Munn, who scores all of Windsor's touchdowns as they take down Loveland, 132 rush yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, 5 tackles, a pick, and an 80-yard kickoff return for a touchdown win over Loveland that will secure them a league chip. Genoa Trujillo here going 15 of 18 for 214 yards and 3 scores in Greeley Central's win over Silver Creek. Now, while all of these are impressive, Coach V is going to give the edge to the do-it-all fella here, Mikey Munn, who not only gets it done running the football very well, but defensively is just playing lights out with 5 tackles in the pick. And then on special teams, what more could you ask other than a guy to perform on every side of the football, offense, defense, and special teams? And that is what Coach V is going to go with here, with Mikey Munn being your 4A Playmaker of the Week. And finally, myself in 5A, there were a ton of great options here. You know, there's even one guy, Ramon Pacheco, 2 interceptions, including a pick 6, 5 tackles as well. Jonathan Core of Pine Creek, who ran for 229 yards on 27 carries and 4 rushing touchdowns in that same game. Blake Rodriguez for Cherokee Trail, who's actually the cover athlete for this episode here, 7 tackles and a pick in that upset win over Grandview. However, I'm going to go with Asher Weiner out of Valor Christian, getting the Eagles back into the bye level here with 1 week to go, and a huge game against Thunder Ridge, going 10 of 12 for 205 yards and 3 touchdowns through the air, while also notching another 6 rushes for 40 yards and a touchdown on the ground here. So, those Playmakers of the Week, once again brought to you by Code Red Coaching, where the grind to greatness starts with the mind. Visit CodeRedCoaching.com or go ahead and call 720-979-1914 and get set up with your appointment today. That's 720-979-1914 to reach Code Red Coaching and become a mental performer here, or get the same mental aptitude or strength as our Playmakers of the Week, which once again is out of 5A, Asher Weiner out of Valor Christian, out of 4A, Mikey Munn out of Windsor, out of 3A, Gavin Ishmael out of Frederick, out of 2A, Tanner Gray out of Wellington, out of 1A, Logan Bottier out of Lyman. And for our last segment before our outro, as well as announcements here, we have Game of the Week Playmaker, brought to you by Junkyard Training. For the winner of this, you will visit Junkyard Training out there at 14697 East Easter Avenue in Centennial, 80112. We will contact with you and get you guys that swag that Jesse over there from Junkyard has so generously provided here. You're going to get hooked up with a shirt and some protein stuff, whether it's a shaker or the protein itself. It's a great deal. It's all natural, so you don't have to worry about NCAA, ramifications. It is all natural here. And so let's go ahead and talk about some of the candidates here. Obviously, from the Severance Roosevelt game, Noah Lucero stuck out to Gideon and Simon with the game-winning touchdown, 7 tackles, including the game saver on a final Hail Mary attempt to, help keep Roosevelt at 7-1. Brady Weldon from Gino's Ralston Valley Chatfield game, who had 130 rush yards, 2 rush touchdowns, 9 tackles, and an 80-yard interception, along with 2 pass deflections and a sack in a come-from-behind win over Chatfield. To quote Gino, quote, "Game got tied at 21 at half, but Brady scored both of Ralston Valley's second-half TDs and had a game-saving 80-yard pick and a sack to force a TOD that ended the game," end quote. However, we're going to go with a playmaker from our Kent Denver versus TCA game of the week here, and that is defensive tackle / offensive tackle Trip Skews here. 11 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks, ruining TCA's day and helping propel Kent Denver to a league championship while also keeping a clean pocket and opening running lanes at tackle here. Kent Denver at number 2 in 2A in huge part thanks to Trip Skew's performance in this league championship clinching game here. And that is our Junkyard Game of the Week Playmaker here. Junkyard Training, of course, one of our proud sponsors for these episodes and has been a Game of the Week kind of sponsor in and out throughout the season. But Trip Skews, go ahead and head on down to 14697 East Easter Avenue in Centennial, Colorado, 80112 to claim your prizes as the Game of the Week Playmaker. And that will do it for this episode of Playmakers Corner here. Thank you all so much for tuning in and listening, as we are just about done with the regular season here. We have a ton of interesting content, and you guys already know how we like to do. We're going to get brackets next week. We're going to do playoff previews. We're going to talk about the 16 teams in 1A and 2A, and we're going to talk about the 24 teams in 4A and 5A. Build that picture for you. We're going to have brackets done by all 4 of us here at PMC. 3A still has 1 week to go, so just keep that in mind for 1 week after everyone else of the regular season. So just keep your eyes peeled as standings start to finalize and matchups start to get drafted, and we will try and keep you filled in on what that schedule looks like, as well as what games we plan on attending. So be on the lookout for 2 episodes next week, one that is just a Week 10 recap, and then one that is our playoff preview. So thank you all so much for listening. I have been your showrunner today, Cody Stauffer, joined by Coach V, Gino, and Gideon with their recaps as well as their playoff picture updates. So thank you all so much for listening to all of those. And for all of our latest updates on playoff brackets, on episodes, on highlights from games that we go to, Be sure to find us on social media, whether it's Instagram at Playmakers Corner, Twitter at Playmaker Corner /X, and we're also on Facebook, Playmakers Corner, 2 separate words. We're also on TikTok at Playmakers Corner, where we post all of our highlights from the games that we attend. Lots of fun videos that we've gotten recently. So be sure to follow us on all of those so you can see all of our latest posts. And then if you're listening to this, you might be listening on YouTube, which if you are, go ahead and subscribe to us so you get notified whenever we release an episode to YouTube. Or you might be listening on one of your favorite podcast platforms, be it Spotify, Google Podcasts, or Apple Podcasts, in which case you should have notifications on for any time we come out with a new episode, especially as this season starts to heat up and we start licking our chops thinking about who will run the Rockies here in Colorado. Peace.